Hey guys, tonight, we're traveling back, way, way back. Farther than your brain might be ready for. The kind of back where civilization is a rumor, and the Wi-Fi bars are just scratch marks on a cave wall. The kind of back where the calendar hasn't even been invented yet. It's the Paleolithic era, and trust me, you're not dressed for it. Before we go deeper into the cold, take a second, if your fingers haven't frozen solid, like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It means a lot. And while you're settling in, drop your location and current time in the comments. I love seeing where you're all watching from. It's strangely comforting to imagine this story whispering through bedrooms, dorms, apartments, bunkers, wherever you're hiding from your own cold reality. Now, dim the lights. Let your body sink into your blankets or couch or wherever you are. Maybe turn on a small fan to give the illusion of cave wind. And let's slip gently into tonight's frozen world together. The wind outside bites hard. It doesn't simply brush your cheeks or nip at your fingers, it gnaws with sharp teeth and no intention of letting go. Your skin tightens, your cheeks sting, and your toes have started to forget they ever knew warmth. They feel like carved stones now, cold, dumb, and heavy. The air, crisp and clear, slices through your nostrils and settles deep in your chest. Every breath feels like swallowing the edge of a blade. You haven't opened your eyes yet, but you already know what you're waking up to. It's not the gentle warmth of a sunrise or the soft rustle of leaves. No, this morning greets you like a slap. You're waking up in a time where survival is not a lifestyle choice. It isn't a motivational poster with a snow-capped mountain and the word resilience under it. It's your full-time, unpaid internship in staying alive. And the job benefits? Mostly frostbite and paranoia. The smoke from last night's fire still clings to your skin. It has soaked into the furs you sleep in, into your tangled hair, into your very breath. It doesn't smell like comfort. It smells like desperation mixed with old ash and bone marrow. The scent wraps around you like a second layer, closer than your own shadow. Even before your eyelids lift, the chill gnaws at your bones and you already miss the fire that barely kept you from freezing. This isn't the kind of cold where you say, I should probably throw on a jacket. This is the kind of cold where you question if your eyelashes will stay attached when you blink. They feel stiff already, crystals forming at the corners of your eyes. You're about to crawl out of your cave into it, which makes you question every decision that's brought you here. If you had a choice in the matter, which you didn't, your breath fogs in the dim half-light. You can barely see the outline of your fingers in front of your face, but you can hear the breath of everyone around you. The cave is small, cramped, and packed full of people, your people. Too many limbs jumbled together, too many bodies snoring or mumbling or twitching in dreams. You're all layered in whatever furs could be gathered, worn soft and sour with age and smoke and sweat. Someone nearby is snoring. Not politely either. It's the kind of snore that vibrates through the floor. Like a mammoth with a sinus infection. Someone else is muttering, low, soft words without real meaning. Maybe dreaming about roasted roots or the fat scraped from inside a bison bone. You try to sit up slowly, carefully, without accidentally kneeing your cousin in the nose. He's still hugging the fire stick like it's something sacred. Like it's the most valuable thing in the world, which, here, it kind of is. You move to the mouth of the cave, stepping over limbs and shifting bundles of fur. Outside, the world hasn't quite woken up. Or maybe it never sleeps. The trees nearby are thin and crooked, their limbs bent with the weight of snow. Ice clings to them like armor. You can hear them creak and pop under the strain, each branch threatening to snap. The sky is pale, a sheet of dull gray that never fully brightens, no matter how long the sun has technically been up. It doesn't look like morning, but it is. The world just doesn't care to show it. Your first order of business. Not dying. It's on the schedule every day. Right at the top. In bold, you step outside. The snow crunches beneath your feet, which are wrapped tightly in makeshift boots, animal hide bundled with sinew and hope. They're rough, itchy, and about as insulated as a wet sock. But they're what you have. They whisper fashion only in the most ironic sense. The second your soles meet the snow, cold shoots up your legs in a silent scream. It crawls up behind your knees, through your thighs, and nestles at the base of your spine. Your fingers ache just watching it happen to your toes. Back inside, the hearth is barely alive. The coals glow with a dull red light under the blackened logs from yesterday's fire. You crouch beside it and feed it twigs you tucked under your sleeping mat. You blow gently, lips barely parted. Smoke rises, thin and sharp, stinging your eyes and throat. The flames flicker to life again, small, reluctant. They don't warm you as much as they try not to die themselves. The fire breathes like an old man with tired lungs. You grab the haunch of dried meat hanging above. You've long forgotten what animal it came from. The piece you break off cracks like old wood. The smell is pungent. Aged. Like damp leather socks soaked in pickled seawater. You eat it anyway. Not because you're brave, but because you're hungry. Courage has nothing to do with it. Historians debate whether early humans scavenged more than they hunted during these brutal winters. Some believe your kind trailed predators, waiting for scraps. Others suggest you were fearless, or foolish, enough to go after large prey with pointy sticks and desperation. Whatever the truth is, it wasn't elegant. You're just glad nothing tried to trample you this morning. You chew slowly, staring out across the ridge. The world stretches in icy silence, like a sea frozen in motion. The air warps slightly near the horizon. Not from heat, obviously, but from the odd way light bends over snowdrifts. You see a trail of prints, fresh ones. Could be deer. Could be something that eats deer. Or something that eats you. You swallow the last bite with effort. You grab your spear. It's made of smooth ash wood, tipped with a chipped stone point. It's bound tightly with sinew and coated in resin, just enough to make it water resistant. Not your most beautiful work, but it hasn't betrayed you yet. You tie your flint blade into your waist belt, grab your pouch of fire powder and pine resin, and step back out. This time, for real. The wind doesn't welcome you. It judges you. Out here, daydreaming is dangerous. Every gentle hill might hide a predator or a hole deep enough to end you. Snow covers everything, including dangers you can't afford to trip over. Rocks that twist ankles. Burrows hiding animals that hiss and bite. And sometimes, other humans. You remember last winter's raid, when another clan stole your stockpile of dried fish. You chased them off with fire and yelling. You still think about that fish more often than you think about the raiders. You move across the snow slowly. Each step is deliberate, carefully avoiding the soft spots that could collapse beneath you. Birds fly overhead, small dark shapes moving like shadows across the gray sky. Are they watching? Or just surviving? One lets out a shrill caw before darting away. You flinch. You always take it personally. Then you hear something behind you. A crunch in the snow. Light. Soft. You go still. Could be a sibling. Could be a lynx. Could be something worse. You don't turn around immediately. You kneel beside a patch of ice and pretend to examine it. Your hand slides to your belt. You draw your knife, slowly, fingers steady. Just in case, it's your little cousin. He's holding up a limp rabbit with both hands like a prize, snot trailing from his nose, his face beaming with pride. You nod once. He smiles like you handed him the moon. He skips off, his feet making cheerful thuds in the snow. You watch him go. Still skipping. Even here, in a place where everything wants to kill you, children still find time to be obnoxious. That might be the real key to our survival. Not tools. Not fire. Just stubborn joy. You head back inside. Breakfast is ready. Frozen meat, bitter bark boiled into mush, and a few crushed pine needles sprinkled in for flavor. You drink melted snow from a horn cup, warmed slightly from the fire's heat. It tastes clean and sharp and just a little smoky. You let it rest in your hands longer than you need to. The world outside remains frozen, uncaring, and dangerous. But for a moment, in this cave, there's warmth. And sometimes, that's all you need. Tomorrow might bring a mammoth near your camp. Or wolves might come down from the ridge. The snow might shift and collapse the entrance. The cold might seep in deeper than you can fight. But today, you woke up. You ate. You breathed. You saw a child smile. And in the Ice Age, that counts for everything. You step outside again, one foot after the other, and the cold greets you like a slap to the face. Your breath crystallizes midair the moment you exhale, turning into a puff of fog that vanishes almost as quickly as it appears. You pause there, at the mouth of the cave, your body half in shadow, half exposed to the pale world beyond, because everything in front of you is white, not a gentle or poetic white. Not the kind of white that reminds you of clouds or clean linen drying in sunlight. This is a brutal, blinding white. An unforgiving white that flattens the world and erases detail. The sky is white, smeared with streaks of ghost gray clouds. The ground is white, covered in snow that never ends. The trees, if you can even call them trees, are coated in so much frost that their outlines blur. And if a polar bear happened to be standing 20 feet away from you right now, you might walk right past it, mistaking it for another mound of snow, the snowfall from last night, or maybe it was 2 nights ago. Time slips away in this place, has buried everything. Every footprint you left, every landmark you recognized, every memory of where you've been and what path you meant to take is gone. Vanished beneath a smooth, untouched crust. You turn your head slowly, eyes squinting into the brightness, trying to find something, anything, that breaks the monotony. But it's all the same. Rolling white hills that blend into each other. Jagged white ridges jutting out like forgotten teeth. And there, on the farthest edge of your sight, a gray lump looms. It could be the edge of a glacier. It could be a rock. It could be nothing but a trick of the eye, conjured by the way light and snow play cruel games together. Still, you take a step forward. And then another. Your stomach, only half filled with that leathery piece of breakfast meat, is already beginning to gnaw again. You'll need more food before sundown. And fuel. And perhaps, though you don't want to admit it, a reason to keep doing this. A reason not to simply curl up in the snow, close your eyes, and let the wind bury you like a forgotten relic. Each booted foot crunches lightly over the snow's surface, which resists you just enough to make every step uncertain. There's a delicate crust on top, and it threatens to collapse with your weight. When it does give way, your feet sink into slush, then hit frozen earth below. Sometimes, when it's really deep, you imagine what might lie underneath, maybe ice-locked mud, maybe shattered stone, maybe even the bones of something larger than you want to think about. You keep walking. The cold slips through your layers, worms its way into your calves and shins, numbing them slowly, methodically. Even though you wrapped your legs in stitched hide with care this morning, the wind finds the seams and presses into them like a whisper made of knives. To your left, the frozen river stretches across the landscape like a long, silver scar. It winds lazily through the snow, catching what little light the sky offers. It hasn't thawed in weeks, maybe longer. There are fish beneath that ice, or so they say. But the ice is thick, at least a foot down, and unless you're willing to kneel there for hours, hacking at it with a stone pick and coaxing a bone hook on a sinew line, you're better off searching the surface. Anything above ground has a better chance of ending up in your hands, and in your stomach. Your eyes scan the snow. Not for human footprints. You've had enough of those. Other people mean noise, and noise means trouble. What you're hoping for are animal signs, wide, sunken tracks that could lead to food. Mammoth prints would be ideal. Their tracks run deep, spaced in drunken zigzags across the plains, heavy enough to crack frozen ground. Or maybe aurochs, those massive, grunting cattle with temper tantrums the size of storms. Not easy to catch, but easier than starving. Then something catches the corner of your eye. A flicker of light. You shift your path toward it, careful not to make noise, and eventually come upon a small pile of stones, half covered in snow. It looks too neat to be accidental. The rocks are stacked deliberately, like fingers pressed together in silent prayer. It's a marker. Someone has been here. Recently. Maybe even someone from your group. Or maybe not. That's the danger. You prod the pile with the blunt end of your spear. It doesn't move. No snakes. No buried traps. No signs of violence. Just a quiet symbol, left behind. You can't tell if it means safety or warning. The Ice Age wasn't just brutal because of the cold. It was lonely. Terribly, impossibly lonely. People traveled in small bands, 25, maybe 30 at most. Entire seasons could pass without seeing another soul. And when strangers did appear, it was always a gamble. Some brought trade. Some brought friendship. Some brought rocks. Scholars today still argue over whether those early bands shared anything resembling language. Maybe they spoke with half-formed grunts, or maybe they gestured wildly until something made sense. You've seen someone warn "stay away from my food" using nothing more than a death stare and a very large stick. That's a language too, in its own way. The wind shifts suddenly. A sharp gust stings your face and tries to push you backward, like a sibling shoving you just because they can. You lift your forearm and brace against it. The cold worms its way into the smallest cracks between your furs, poking at your neck, your wrists, your knees. You should head back. But not yet. Not without something, anything, that reminds you the world is still alive. Then you see them. Tracks, large ones. Deep, fresh ovals pressed into the snow. They arc in a strange curve, almost looping. You kneel beside one and press your fingers into the packed center. It's still holding a bit of warmth. Not mammoth. Not deer. These prints are wide, heavy, and slightly splayed. It's a woolly rhinoceros. You swallow. Hard. These creatures are not subtle. They are mountains with horns. They are moods with legs. Built like walking fortresses, and just as stubborn. If they're in a bad mood, you might not even get a chance to scream. Some cave paintings show rhinos charging stick-figure humans like they're bowling pins. Whether those paintings are meant to be cautionary tales or bad jokes is still up for debate. You follow the trail slowly. Cautiously. Each footstep is measured, deliberate. The pine grove ahead feels dense. It's quiet, too quiet. You grip your spear tighter, your thumbs sliding instinctively along its shaft, searching for cracks. The snow beneath your feet crunches softly. Your breath hisses in and out. Your ears strain for sound, and then you hear it, a snort, not a grunt. Not a growl. A thick, wet exhale. Heavy. Alive, you freeze. Ahead, between two trees, a shape moves. You blink once, twice. It doesn't disappear. A horned mass sways gently. Tufts of coarse dark hair ripple with the wind. It hasn't seen you. It's facing away, its body heaving slightly with each breath. You thank every vague spirit your ancestors ever muttered about. You drop to your knees, sliding behind a rock. Your heart beats so loudly it feels like it might call attention to itself. You stay still. Eyes fixed. Breath shallow. Muscles coiled. You could throw your spear. You could try. But that would be suicide. It would only anger the beast. And you're alone. No one is coming. Even if you struck it clean, dragging that much meat across hills would take days. You don't have the strength. Or the time. Or the hope, so you do what you've learned to do, you retreat, slowly. One careful step at a time. No noise. No sudden shifts. Just breath and patience. This is not cowardice. This is wisdom. On the way back, your pace is slower. The cold has sunk deeper now, into your bones. Your legs move like stone pillars. Your hands have begun to ache, even through layers of fur. The sky remains gray, but the light fades. Dusk is coming. You mutter under your breath, songs from your childhood, curses in half-formed syllables. Anything to fill the silence, then you stop, movement. Far ahead. Low. Subtle, not an animal, a person, someone crouched near a tree, wrapped in heavy furs. You can't see their face. They're moving, working. Maybe digging. Maybe setting a trap. They don't see you. They don't look up. You drop lower. Instinct. Your eyes narrow, you wait, they move once more. Then disappear. Quiet as a ghost, gone. You are left standing there, unsure what to feel. Relieved, maybe. Uneasy, definitely. Because that's the cruel balance of this world, you're never quite alone, and never quite safe. By the time you reach your cave again, the light is fading from the sky in streaks of soft purple and bruised blue. Inside, warmth returns in whispers. The fire is down to flickers. Your family speaks in quiet tones, their voices low and tired. Someone is boiling bark tea. Someone else wraps cold feet in tighter bundles. A child is gnawing on a bone. Another retells a story with wild hand gestures and howling sounds meant to imitate mammoths. Badly, you sit down and let the heat settle back into your skin. The outside world is vast and heartless. But inside this little soot-stained cave, there is life. There is sound. There is warmth. And, for this one night, that is enough. You wake up before the sun rises, long before any light dares to touch the rim of the horizon. Not that it matters. You wouldn't be able to see the sun anyway, cloaked as it is behind that endless ceiling of frozen cloud. It's not just hidden. It's buried. Trapped in layers of thick, icy smog that blur the line between night and day until both feel like different versions of the same dull gray. But still, you can feel it. Not in a warm, promising way, but in the subtle shift of cold air, in the faint pressure change that tells your bones something out there is trying to become morning. Even if the world would prefer it didn't, your stomach gets there before your eyes do. It lets out a noise that feels like it echoes through the entire cave. A long, hollow groan, unmistakably dramatic, as if to remind you of your own fragility. You haven't eaten properly since yesterday morning, and even then it was just a sliver of smoked meat, more cartilage than nourishment. Now your ribs are making introductions to the outside world, poking through skin and muscle like they want to be part of the conversation. You run your fingers along your side, half amused, half worried, wondering if you're starting to resemble something that might catch the wind and glide. Breakfast isn't a certainty. It never has been. There's no pantry to raid, no fridge humming with options. You can't reach for cereal or fruit or even a stale crust of bread. In this world, you are the storage unit. You are the delivery system. You are the backup plan. If everything else fails, if the snow keeps hiding roots, and the traps stay empty, and the fire dies before it catches again, your body is the last resort. You glance toward the bone shelf, that grim corner in the back of the cave where frozen remains are stacked like a sad butcher's dream. A few scraps hang there, curled and hard and aged past recognition. Some marrow bones. A tuft of fur still clinging to a joint. Not enough. You sigh. You'll have to go out, again. The good news, if you can call it that, is no one else in your group looks eager to rise either. They are all still curled under layers of hide and exhaustion, bundled like discarded laundry, motionless except for the occasional twitch or snore. The worst news, of course, is that their stillness means it's your turn. You've learned not to wait for volunteers. Hunger chooses, and today it has chosen you. You slowly peel yourself away from the collective warmth, a quiet groan slipping from your lips as your body protests. The act of standing feels like tearing Velcro made of flesh and fur. You hear a few half-conscious grumbles from the others as the warm air you've stolen rushes out, replaced by the bite of the morning chill. You mutter a soft apology, but no one answers. No one even opens an eye. Outside, the wind is sharper than yesterday. It moves with purpose now, pushing the snow in restless waves across the landscape. It doesn't howl or roar. It whispers like something angry but tired of shouting. The drifts shift and scatter, rolling like ghosts that can't settle. The fire outside is long dead, and the stones are cold to the touch. Your fingers sting the moment they escape the inside of your cloak, and your breath crystallizes in front of your face in a cloud of frost. You pull the cloak tighter around your shoulders and begin to walk, each step a quiet vow to return with something edible. Anything, really. Because if you don't find calories, the day will find a way to take them from you. You head down the slope, toward a small cluster of stunted trees where you've had luck before. Beneath the snow there, roots sometimes survive. Not the kind of roots you dream about, not thick and juicy and bursting with sap, but wiry threads that can be boiled into something approaching sustenance. You've eaten worse. You've boiled bark. You've chewed moss until your teeth ached. You've even softened strips of dried leather into soup. Once, your uncle boiled one of his own sandals. He claimed it was chewy, but respectable. You're not sure if he meant it or if he was trying to make you laugh. You laughed anyway. Historians still debate whether early humans split their foraging duties by gender or age. Whether women gathered and men hunted, or whether it was just a daily scramble, every person for themselves, each one racing for the nearest root like it was a prize in a brutal game. You don't know how it worked back then because this is now, and right now, you're the only one digging. So whether it was organized or chaos doesn't matter. Today, it's your job. You spot a fallen log, half buried in snow, frost clinging to its sides like armor. Beneath it, if luck still exists, grubs might be hiding. Fat ones, if you're lucky. You pull out your bone knife and begin scraping. The outer snow is soft, but beneath that, the crust resists. You dig anyway. Chipping. Carving. Until the soil gives way to something pale. Two writhing, cream-colored worms. They squirm in the cold like they don't understand why you're staring. You flick them into your pouch with the practiced indifference of someone who's eaten far worse and will again. You move on, at the base of a gnarled pine. You find tufts of lichen pushing through the snow. They look like green eyebrows raised in defiance. You scrape them loose with frozen fingers. The texture is rough, the smell faintly sour. You bite off a piece. It tastes like the inside of a damp boot. Still, you chew. Slowly, mechanically. Your saliva softens the fibers until it becomes a gluey, earthy paste in your mouth. Not pleasant, but not offensive enough to stop eating. A shadow stirs near the edge of the trees. Your head jerks up. For a moment, the world holds its breath. You freeze, staring. It could be a fox. That would be good. Or something bigger. That would be very bad. Your muscles tighten. Your hand drifts toward your knife. You listen. The only sound is the wind and the distant creaking of old trees bending under the weight of too much snow. Whatever moved isn't moving anymore. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it's still watching. You move on, toward a hollow, nestled beneath a rocky overhang. It's one of the few places where snow doesn't gather. You crouch low, begin to dig. Your knife taps something. Not root. Not stone. Something harder, smoother. You pull it free. A bone. Long, thick. A predator's leftovers, still holding its marrow. A miracle. The Ice Age equivalent of finding buried treasure in your backyard. Marrow is everything. It's fat. It's energy. It's warmth. You don't eat it here, though. You don't even crack it. Not in the open. Not when something might smell it. You tuck it into your pouch like it's gold. By the time you turn back toward the cave, your fingers burn. Not just from cold, but from effort. Your pouch swings heavier at your side. Your stomach rumbles at the weight. It knows what's coming. It wants to skip the chewing part. Back at camp, the group has started to stir. One of the older women grinds something between two flat stones. You don't ask what it is. It smells faintly like roasted nuts, bitterness, and old fire. A cousin prods at the ashes, coaxing them back into flame. Talking to the embers like they're a child who doesn't want to wake up. You drop your finds onto the flattest rock you can find. A small cheer rises, not for you exactly, but for what you've brought. You take the pride anyway. In a world where someone recently lost a toe to a goose and nobody flinched, praise is rare. You take what you can get. You carry the marrow bone outside. Find a good flat rock. Then find a bigger rock. You bring them together. The bone splinters with a sharp crack, and the center opens like a secret. You scoop out the marrow with a shard of antler. It's soft. Smooth. Almost warm from the light that you haven't actually seen yet. You eat it slowly. Carefully. Like it's the last bite you'll ever get. The children fight over the worms. You toss them one each, and they slurp them down like treats. You wonder what people in the far future would say about this breakfast. Maybe they'd post about it. Hints of soil, with notes of leather and desperation. Someone found a squirrel. Dead, but only recently. It becomes the centerpiece of the morning. You roast it carefully. Someone adds dried berries from a forgotten pouch. The smell fills the cave, sweet, charred, smoky. It's almost civilized. Historians once found a bundle of wild onions and dried frogs buried together in a pouch, proof that even Ice Age humans had taste. Some poor soul once said, "These go well together," and buried them for later. You eat your share of the squirrel and feel strangely human. Stories begin. Someone mimics a predator's call. Someone else acts out the time lightning struck a tree and it exploded into fire. You laugh. Everyone does. Because no one died, and in your world, that makes it comedy. You feel your belly settle. Not full, but less desperate. The fire is strong. The kids throw bones. Someone hums a tune without words. For once, you can lie back and not feel your stomach accusing you. The food is gone. The warmth fades. The cold creeps back in, as it always does. But now it feels less like a threat, and more like a companion you've learned to tolerate. A quiet teacher, reminding you that survival is a ritual. That no bite is free. That every meal is proof of effort. Of will. Of life, and today, you earned yours. You are full, well, fullish. Your belly isn't exactly singing songs of celebration, but it has gone quiet for now, which in your world counts as a monumental success. There's no bloating, no gnawing pain, no inner voice begging for bark or bone. That soft silence of the gut, that temporary absence of hunger, means one thing and one thing only. You are functioning at what passes for peak performance. In another time, this might mean a jog, a project, a mid-morning nap. Here, it means you're up next for the most exhausting, most dangerous, most defining activity on the prehistoric checklist, hunting, and not the gentle, pastoral kind of hunting you might imagine from storybooks or documentaries. Not the slow walk across open meadows, pausing now and then to admire a sunrise. Not the quiet wait in a tree with a clean bough and a modern scope. No. This is a sprint, a trap, a prayer. This is sharpened sticks, adrenaline, desperation. This is chasing a creature across frozen fields, hoping it falls into a pit before it turns and spears you with its own face. This is high risk, low reward, and if you're lucky, someone sings about you afterward, whether in victory or in mourning. You begin to gather your tools. The spear is first. Its point has been freshly bound with sinew, the flint tip chipped until it resembles something closer to intention than luck. It glints faintly in the gray morning light, catching just enough shine to remind you that yes, this could kill something. Or you. You tuck a spare tip into your pouch, because sometimes things break when you need them most, and the Ice Age is known for holding grudges. You wrap your arms in thick hides, not just for warmth, but to soften the bite of any miscalculated branch or antler. You smear a thin line of pine sap across your cheekbones. Not because it helps. Not because it hides scent. But because it feels right. It's tradition. Ritual. Something to make you feel less like a bundle of nerves walking into the jaws of fate. 3 others are with you. They emerge from the shadows of the cave one by one, lean and wrapped in furs that have been patched, stitched, and reshaped more times than you can count. They carry little, but each item they do carry means something. One has a sling, its pouch weathered but supple. He tucks stones into his belt like he's packing words for a future argument. Another carries a net, coarse and wide, woven from bark fiber and sheer determination. The last has no visible weapon. He carries only himself, tall, gaunt, shoulders back. His eyes scan the horizon like he has outrun death twice and would welcome a third just to stay sharp. You nod to them. There are no goodbyes. No ceremony. Just a shared glance, a soft grunt, a hand brushing your arm as you pass. The people who stay behind know how this goes. They'll watch the edge of the trees until dusk. They'll count every shadow. If you return, you will be greeted. If you don't, they'll know. They always know. You step out into the plain, the snow here behaves differently. It isn't consistent. Some patches are packed solid, deceptively firm, like stepping on frozen stone. Others collapse beneath your feet, swallowing you to the knees in slush and ice. The unpredictability forces you to move with care. Your breath comes fast and visible, a series of short, sharp clouds in the air. Each exhale reminds you how cold it is. Each inhale tells you how alive you still are. Around you, the silence spreads wide. It presses in from all sides, vast and ancient. There are no birds. No wind. Just the muffled crunch of your boots and the distant groan of shifting ice. You're tracking a herd today. Hopefully reindeer. Possibly bison. Possibly something with teeth larger than your head and a habit of eating its own predators. You keep your eyes low, scanning for the little signs that mean everything: patches of snow pressed flat, small piles of dung frozen in place, tufts of hair snagged on low branches. The world speaks in clues, and over time, you've learned to read them. The snow becomes your storybook. Every track is a sentence. Every droplet of scat is punctuation. Then you see it, far ahead, nearly camouflaged in the endless white, a cluster of shapes shifts slowly. They move with the rhythm of animals trying to survive, not trying to escape. Reindeer. Fur-covered backs barely rise above the snowdrifts. They paw gently at the ground, uncovering tiny patches of moss, chewing like it's a sacred act. One of them stumbles. A slight hitch in its step. A limp. You hold your breath. That one, he is the one. Your group drops into a crouch behind a low ridge. You watch the herd from a safe distance. You feel the others close in around you. No one speaks. Instead, hands move. Eyebrows arch, shoulders shift. It's a language of survival. One nods toward the ridge. Another gestures toward the hollow to the east. You will flank. Someone will drive. The limper will flee. The ravine will catch him. Then comes the net. Then the sling. Then your spear. Historians debate whether Ice Age hunters used structured signs or relied on instinct. Judging by this group, it's both. Strategy wrapped in desperation. Order braided with luck, you slip off to the right, circling wide. The snow here clings to your legs like wet sand. You keep low. Your feet barely rise with each step. The others fan out, each finding their position. You are no longer separate people. You are one creature with 4 heads and 8 feet, moving in perfect disharmony. Your breath is shallow. Your grip is tight. The spear bobs slightly as you move. Then it comes, the signal, a whistle. Bird-like. Sharp and fast. It pierces the silence. Go, you rise and sprint. The others do too, the herd reacts instantly. Snow explodes. Reindeer leap. Antlers clash. Hooves dig trenches into the soft crust. Your heartbeat surges. The limping one turns, just as planned, veering left toward the ravine. The net flies first. It unrolls midair like a falling curtain and catches his front legs. Just enough. He stumbles. The sling spins and releases, a stone zips through the air and strikes his shoulder. He lurches again. Slows, your moment, you stop running, you plant your feet, you draw back your arm, every muscle pulling in unison. Your shoulders lock. Your breath stills. You release, the spear arcs upward. It spins, once, twice, then dives. The flint tip drives into the reindeer's flank with a sound both solid and soft. The animal cries out, a strange mixture of panic and rage, then collapses in a burst of snow and fur. You freeze. You wait. You watch, one kick. Then stillness, everyone exhales. Relief floods the air like steam. Someone laughs. It's loud. Maybe too loud. But it's real. You approach slowly. No sudden movements. Sometimes they fake stillness, then lunge. But not this time. It's done. Truly done. You kneel beside the animal. You press your hand to its side. The warmth is still there. Not for long, but enough. You whisper. Words pass down through breath and memory. Not prayer. Not apology. Just, thanks. For the life. For the meat. For the reminder that this time, you won. Historians have found graves with animal bones arranged in deliberate patterns. Maybe reverence. Maybe ritual. Maybe a quiet thank you written in bones and silence. Now the work begins. You start with the haunches. Thick muscles carved free with steady hands. Then the organs. The liver is smooth. The heart is dense. The kidneys are small, but valuable. You pack them into hide bundles, careful to keep the fat. Always keep the fat. It is warmth. It is energy. It is life. The hide comes off last. You scrape it quickly, fold it neatly. It will be cleaned later, when your fingers aren't stiff and red. The bones remain. They will become tools. Or broth. Or both. The snow beneath you is stained dark. Steam rises from the open body. It looks like breath. Like memory leaving the flesh. Someone makes a joke about the tongue. You threaten to bite them. Everyone smiles, eventually. It is done. You lash the meat into bundles. Poles are cut to carry the load. The net slinger takes the lightest pack. His knees creak when he stands. You carry the heart. And half the liver. It is heavy. It is worth it. The walk back is long. And cold. The high from the hunt fades. Your joints ache. Your back complains. Your hands are numb. But your chest is warm. Not from fire. Not from pride. From success. You did it. You'll eat. They'll eat. That is enough. As you climb the last ridge, you see smoke rising. The cave waits. Shadows flicker in the firelight. Someone sees you. A shout goes up. Not a warning. A cheer. A true cheer. You smile. Not on purpose. It just happens, inside. The meat is laid out. The children gather close, wide-eyed and twitching. The elders nod once. That's all they need to say. You're handed a bowl. It holds broth. Pine needles. Bits of marrow. Maybe a scrap of squirrel. You sip it. It tastes like labor. Like cold mornings and long miles. Like living. Tomorrow may bring failure. Or danger. Or something worse, but tonight, your hands are full. Your belly soon will be. You sit by the fire, surrounded by breath and story and steam, and once again, you've earned the right to stay. The fire has dwindled down to a quiet bed of embers again, glowing like half-buried stars in the ash. Its pulse is soft now, more suggestion than flame, and the air in the cave has grown colder in its absence. Around you, the others lie still. They are either deep in sleep or doing very convincing impressions of it. Either way, no one stirs. Not even a snore. Not even a twitch. It is the silence of exhausted bodies that have nothing left to say. You are on watch tonight, because apparently, spearing dinner yesterday and hauling it across miles of snow and ice still does not get you out of cave duty. There are no awards. No exemptions. No, thank you, that grants rest. Just the cycle. Just the fire. Just the weight of another task waiting patiently for you to lift it. You sit cross-legged near the hearth, your posture somewhere between alert and worn. Your cloak is wrapped tightly around your shoulders, pulled close against your throat to trap the last warmth of the hunt still lingering in your bones. Your spear rests across your lap like a sleepy animal, long and familiar, a quiet presence that breathes with you. You stroke your thumb along the smooth wood, feeling the grooves worn by time and pressure and use. The night outside is still. So still it feels unnatural. There is no wind brushing past the cave mouth. No rustle of branches shifting under the weight of snow. No far-off groans of ice splitting under stress. Just an absolute quiet that presses in from all sides. The kind of quiet that hums faintly in the back of your skull. The kind of quiet that feels too deliberate, as if the world has paused itself just to see if you'll flinch. The cold is worse at night. Not because the temperature drops further, though it probably does, but because it sneaks up on you in new ways. It becomes something more than sensation. It becomes a presence. A thing with shape and fingers and breath. It crawls beneath the edge of your cloak, touches the back of your neck, slides between your ribs. It doesn't stab or sting. It presses. It leans in slowly and hums against your bones like it wants to become part of you. A second skin made of frost. Your job tonight is simple. At least in theory, keep the fire alive. And if something large with fangs and a short temper wanders in, scream loud enough to wake the others. Maybe throw something. Maybe run. Maybe both. If you have time. It is not what anyone would call a solid plan. It is more of a hope written in mud. You reach for a nearby stick and gently prod the coals. A few sparks leap up in surprise, crackling softly in the quiet. They dance upward into the higher shadows of the cave ceiling, trailing little lines of gold that fade almost as quickly as they appear. A few bounce off the rough stone walls and vanish. You smile at the sight. Not because it is funny, but because there is a strange comfort in fire, even when it is small and struggling. Even when it is barely alive. It gives you something to focus on. Something to believe in. Fire smells like control. Like memory. Like survival itself has taken form in the shape of heat and smoke. It is proof that your kind once took something wild and turned it into a companion. You remember the story you were told as a child, the one about the first fire. How someone long ago caught a piece of lightning in a tree. How they refused to let it die. How they fed it night after night, even when they were starving, even when the wind howled through their bones. How that fire became part of the clan. Not a tool. A member. Historians will argue forever. Some say fire was discovered by accident, some say it was stolen from the gods. Some say it was gifted, others say it was earned. But almost all of them agree, once humans had fire, the world changed. Not just because you could cook meat or soften hides or see after dark. But because fire brought people together. It made the night smaller. Less infinite. You lean forward and add more kindling. Carefully. Reverently, small strips of bark. A few dry shavings carved earlier from a mammoth rib. A tuft of lichen, rubbed between your palms until it fluffs like moss. You place them gently on the glowing coals. The fire takes them with a soft inhale. A little whoosh. The flame returns, flickering to life again. It stretches upward and throws orange light across the cave walls. The shadows come back too, dancing behind you like old friends who never left. Your cousin shifts in her sleep, muttering something half-formed. It could be a dream. It could be a memory rising up to speak. You glance at her face, the way her brow furrows, the way her lips part. You think of how many nights this fire has protected all of you. How many times it has stood between your family and the cold that waits just beyond reach. Without it, you would not be a clan. You would be a pile of meat and stories waiting to freeze. You remember last season's storm. The wind had come in hard and fast. Howling like it meant to split the sky. The fire died during the second night. You all panicked. Not with screams, but with stillness. No one moved. No one dared. You huddled close for 2 full days, too frozen to try the flint, too afraid the wind would laugh at your efforts. When it finally relit, someone cried. Not with joy. Not with triumph. Just relief. That raw, deep kind that comes from the edge of despair. You look at the soot-streaked walls around you. The ceiling is blackened with years of smoke. You have lived here long enough to leave your fingerprints in the very stone. You wonder sometimes if the fire remembers you too. If it knows who watched it grow. Who kept it alive. In some ancient campsites, archaeologists would one day find clusters of tiny hearths, all close together. A small neighborhood of fires, each one its own little world. Each one tended by hands like yours. Each one a circle of light in the dark. You poke the fire again. Not because it needs it. Just to see what it will do. The log splits open with a gentle snap. Inside, a thin blue flame flickers, shy and strange. It looks almost like a secret. You lean closer, mesmerized, then it happens. Movement, you hear it first. A crunch. Not loud. Not quick, but deliberate. Outside the cave, just beyond the reach of light, your body tenses. Every nerve sharpens. Every sense stretches outward. You grip the spear without thinking, another sound. Closer this time. Another crunch in the snow, you rise slowly. Quietly. You step away from the fire's glow and move toward the mouth of the cave. The cold bites you instantly, but you ignore it. You peer into the dark, the sky is clouded, as always. But the snow glows faintly. It reflects the memory of moonlight. Shapes drift and shift at the edge of visibility. Your eyes adjust, then you see it, a figure, upright. Two-legged. Human-shaped. Moving carefully. Slowly, you raise your spear. Not to throw. Just to be ready. You whisper, voice low and steady, "Who's there?" There is no etiquette in this age. No safe knock. No passwords. Just questions and hope. The shape stops. Then moves forward, a voice answers. Low. Familiar. One of the foragers from the southern ridge. You recognize it, relief spreads through you. He steps into view, wrapped in thick furs, face red from cold. He carries a bundle of sticks under one arm and something wrapped in hide. Dried mushrooms, maybe. Or winter roots. He nods at you without speaking. Just drops to his knees beside the fire and begins adding wood with care. You sit again, side by side, you both tend the flames. No conversation. No need. The fire grows. The night continues. Two figures sharing the same breath, the same silence. The only sound is the soft crackle of bark and the occasional creak of leather. Then, without a word, he reaches into his pouch and pulls out a bone flute. He lifts it to his mouth and begins to play. Not a song. Not exactly. Just a low, haunting tone. A hum shaped by breath. It sounds like the wind trying to remember a melody it once knew. You close your eyes. Some people believe humans made music before they made language. That sound came before word. Maybe this is proof. You begin to hum along. You don't know the notes. You don't have to. The sound wraps around you like another layer of hide. It isn't just music. It is warmth. It is protection. It is memory, carried on air. Eventually, your watch ends. Another member of the group stirs, blinks, mumbles. You hand them the spear, pat the fire once with quiet affection, and crawl back toward your pile of fur and skin and sleep. You nestle into the hollow you left. Feeling your own heat fill it again. Your limbs relax. Your breathing slows. Behind your closed eyelids, the fire flickers on, casting shadows that dance on the walls of your dreams, and just before sleep takes you fully, one thought passes through your mind: if you could thank anything in this cold, harsh world, not the mammoth, not the spear, not even the lucky shot, it would be this: the fire, the thing that stays. The thing that breathes. The thing that turns night into something you can survive. You wake up slowly, rising from the depths of sleep as if swimming through thick wool. Your body resists the motion. Fingers stiffen before they bend. Your face itches where dried smoke has settled into your pores, clinging like memory. You inhale through your nose and smell the hearth on your skin, in your hair, behind your teeth. The scent of pine broth still lingers faintly on your breath, mixed with something sleep-sour and earthy. You shift beneath the pile of hides and stretch out your legs, only to feel the dull ache running through them from yesterday's hunt. It's a familiar soreness, the kind that hums instead of screams. It says one thing with quiet confidence: you've earned another day. You sit up slowly, cautious not to disturb the others. The movement sends a wave of cold across your body as the warmth stored beneath the hides escapes. Your cloak slips off your shoulders and tumbles down into a heap beside you. The air that touches your exposed skin is sharp and immediate. It feels like the cold has been waiting patiently for hours, crouched beside you, ready to pounce the moment you stirred. Its fingers slap across your arms, your chest, your neck. You shiver as if waking up has angered the air itself. First thing on the list today. Layers. As many as you can stack before frostbite starts whispering ideas into your toes. You reach for your tunic. It's thick and heavy. Made from deer hide that has been hand-stitched with care. Your aunt sewed it years ago. The seams still hold. The inside is worn smooth, the outside still rough. It was dyed with crushed berries and charcoal, back when you had time to care about color. Once, it smelled like forest moss and leaves. Now it mostly smells like smoke and long days. You pull it over your head and begin adding more. Outer furs come next, wolf draped over your shoulders, rabbit wrapped tight across your chest, a strip of reindeer hide around your waist. Each piece is a trophy, not in the grand sense of conquest, but in the quiet way survival speaks. Every layer is something you hunted or bartered for or took from something that tried to take you first. You slip your feet into boots made of softened hide, lined with dried grass packed in tight. They crunch slightly as you step into them, but the insulation will hold. You jam your hands into mitts, thick and clawed. You don't remember what animal they came from. Just that it bled, bit, and fought until it didn't. You won. Now your fingers stay warm. The Ice Age did not care for beauty. It cared for function. It was not fashion forward. It was fashion fearward. You wore what wouldn't kill you. Or, more accurately, what you managed to kill first. You wrap a belt around your waist. It's just a twisted length of sinew, stretched and knotted, but it holds everything that matters. A flint blade, smooth and chipped at the edge. A small pouch with dried mushroom slices. A sharpened shard of antler, more tool than weapon. You carry only what earns its place. Everything must serve 3 purposes or more. If it doesn't, it stays behind. Someone near the fire is already awake. They're threading a fishbone needle through the edge of a fox pelt. Repairing a cloak with slow, steady movements. Their breath puffs out in tiny clouds. They glance up at you, say nothing at first, then grunt in greeting. You grunt back. That's enough. Words are not required before sunup. Language can wait. Historians will one day wonder about clothing in this time. Whether it was purely survival gear or whether early humans had any sense of personal style. Some garments have been found decorated, dyed, or even beaded. Which means even in the coldest times, people still wanted to look a little better than their neighbors. Because humanity, it turns out, has always been at least partly about aesthetics. You run your fingers across your shoulder fur. It's coarse on top, reindeer, most likely. Underneath, the layer is finer. Rabbit or calfskin. Softer. Warmer. This combination has shielded you through 4 snowstorms, 1 hailstorm, and a night spent accidentally sleeping in a frozen stream bed. It also survived a particularly bad courtship ritual last season. You remember it clearly. You showed up wearing untrimmed goat hide, stiff and unflattering. You thought it was bold. You thought it made a statement. It did, but not the one you were hoping for. You ended up standing alone, smelling like compost. Pretending that was intentional, anyway. Back to the cloak, you wrap it around your shoulders and pull it tight, then pin it closed with a carved bone clasp at the collar. The clasp is old, cracked, marked with lines that resemble a sun, a tree, and a jagged tooth. You don't know what they were meant to mean, but you found it in a buried satchel 3 summers ago and decided that whoever owned it had been lucky. You've worn it ever since. You don't believe in magic, but you do believe in habits. Clothing, after all, is not just protection. It's memory made visible. Your cousin, younger and twitchier than you, is sorting through a pile of old hides near the wall. He mutters under his breath while pushing aside rolled skins. A child nearby is chewing on one of the boots, drool glistening on the worn sole. Your cousin swats her gently. She scowls and toddles off, still gnawing. He finds a strip of sinew and stretches it between his fingers and teeth to test its strength. Satisfied, he hands it to you with a nod. Your own boots have begun to separate at the seam again. The edge near the toe is coming loose. You sigh, pull out a curved needle, and begin the quiet task of stitching. It's not graceful. The hide is stiff. The sinew is cold and uncooperative. But this is the cycle you've learned by heart. Break. Mend. Break again. Repeat. Life, as it turns out, is just an endless loop of repairs. Outside the cave, the wind has found its voice. It howls now. Not a scream, but a steady pressure. You hear it pushing against the hide curtain that covers the entrance. The flap trembles slightly. A few flakes of snow slip through and float toward the fire. You blow one off your wrist. It melts on contact, leaving behind only a shimmer. Some Ice Age tribes used animal brains to tan their hides, softening them for wear. Apparently, every mammal has just enough brain to tan its own skin. Poetic. And unsettling. You think about that as you knot the last stitch and pull it tight. The boot is whole again. At least for now, you slide it on. It fits snugly. Better than before. You wiggle your toes. No drafts. No pain. Success. Behind you, someone sneezes violently. A grunt of annoyance follows. Another voice, hoarse and dry, mumbles something that could be a blessing or a vague suggestion to sneeze elsewhere. You look over. One of the children is struggling with a tunic much too large for her. The sleeves dangle like wet rope. She tugs at a belt, trying to wrap it around herself, but keeps getting distracted by her reflection in a puddle of half-melted snow. She makes a face. Growls at herself. Tries again. You remember being that size. You remember stealing your uncle's cloak and pretending it was your own. You remember tripping over boots, refusing to wear mittens because they made your hands look too soft. You thought you could brave the cold. You thought that made you strong. Now, you wouldn't leave the cave without mittens if someone bribed you with dried blueberries and hot broth. You scoot closer to the fire, hands outstretched. The warmth rises slowly, creeping into your palms, soaking into the stiff joints. Your fingers uncurl with effort. You flex them gently. They obey. You check your pouch. Everything is there. Knife. Spark stone. A small strip of dried mushroom. All good. Around the fire, the others are busy in their own ways. Some still dressing. Some sharpening bone tools with quiet focus. Some just sitting and staring, their eyes distant, lost in thoughts too cold to speak aloud. You all look ridiculous. Wrapped in furs, heads hunched low, eyes squinting. Like sleepy owls who dressed in the dark. But you're warm. You're layered. You're here, and that is what matters. Clothing is the armor of this age. Not polished or decorative. Not made for parades. It is stitched with patience. Lined with memory. Frayed by survival. Every pelt carries a story. Every patch is a reminder of what was torn and fixed again, and as you stand up, ready to meet the morning, your layers shift and rustle against each other. The sound is soft, like applause whispered by ancestors. You are not fashionable. But you are dressed for war, and that war is staying alive. You step outside, layered in enough fur and hide to make even a mammoth sweat. The moment you cross the threshold, the wind hits you with an attitude. It doesn't just blow, it shoves. It pulls at your cloak like a child throwing a tantrum. Its icy fingers slide beneath your collar and probe for weakness, seeking bare skin to punish. You lower your chin and squint into the pale light rising over the horizon, trying to make sense of the day's beginning. The sky is a smooth sheet of slate. The sun exists only as a smudge, distant, dulled, buried under tons of heavy cloud that have no interest in letting light through. Your task this morning is clear. Simple on paper. Difficult in practice. Scout the eastern ridge. The snow has been shifting again. Subtle movements. Slight collapses. The kind that suggest more than weather. Yesterday, someone mentioned they saw tracks in that direction. Not the kind left by animals. Larger. Broader. Spaced out just so. Which means one thing, and one thing only: humans. Not yours. You tighten the strap across your chest, adjust the weight of your pouch, and grip your spear. Then you begin the climb. The snow is firm under your boots at first, offering a sense of confidence that quickly vanishes. Each step requires calculation. Your calves begin to burn with effort after only a few dozen paces. The incline is mild, but the resistance is relentless. Every muscle in your legs enters quiet protest. You press forward anyway. Your breath becomes audible, rising in thick, steady clouds that melt and reform in the bitter air. To distract yourself from the rhythm of exertion, you begin to hum. A song. One you barely remember. Something about a one-horned reindeer and a hunter who couldn't aim. The melody limps. The words tangle. Still, it keeps your mind moving forward while your body drags behind. By the time you crest the ridge, your thighs are on fire and your lungs feel lined with snow. You pause to catch your breath, leaning on your spear, squinting across the open expanse. It is quiet. Too quiet, and then you see them, barely their impressions, etched into the snow like a whisper. They are faint, the edges already beginning to soften under wind and frost. But you can still make them out. Not hooves. Not paws. Boots. Human feet. Wider than wolves. Spaced farther than a child's step. 5. Maybe 6 distinct paths. The pattern is unmistakable. You crouch down, brushing aside the powder with a gloved hand. You study the depth, the direction. These are not prints from your own group. You would recognize them by now. You know the way your people walk. You've memorized the stagger of a limp, the drag of a short leg, the bounce of a restless child. These are unfamiliar. The stride is different. Longer. Heavier. Older. They're heading west to east. Not toward you. But not away from anything either. Your stomach tightens. You've done this dance before. Sometimes, these paths lead to new trade. Sometimes they lead to bruises and broken teeth. Sometimes worse, historians may still debate how early tribes interacted. Whether humans of the Ice Age greeted each other with open hands or raised weapons. Whether they shared fire or stole it. The answer is probably both. It depends on who is hungry. Who is armed. Who has more to lose. And who has less to fear. You stand slowly, careful not to disturb the prince more than necessary. You follow them for a short distance, spear held loose but ready. The trail winds gently, not in haste. Whoever left these marks was not hiding. That is either a sign of bravery or foolishness. You cannot yet tell. The path curves into a small cluster of trees. Not many. Just enough to offer cover. A perfect place for someone to wait. Or for someone to disappear. You stop at the edge, eyeing the shadows. You are not reckless enough to step further in alone. Not today. Not without the others. You memorize the bend in the trail, the place where the trees begin. You'll return here tomorrow. With eyes behind you, you turn around and begin the slow descent. The wind has grown stronger. It moans through the hills, kicking loose flakes into your eyes. You squint and lower your head again. Your feet punch holes into the crust. Each step sends a shiver up your spine. The snow clings to your boots. Your mind drifts. You think of the last time strangers came to your camp. It was late spring. Or what passed for spring in this stubborn world of frost and thaw. The snow had started to melt at the edges, dripping slowly from rocks and tree limbs like the world itself was learning to cry again. A trio of travelers appeared at dusk. 2 women, one older, one graying. And a younger man who walked with a limp so deep it looked like he tilted. They were tired. Faces drawn tight with hunger. They approached slowly, palms visible. Your people watched them. Waited, you offered them dried roots. The last of the squirrel stew. You didn't have much, but you had enough to spare. They stayed for 3 nights. Shared stories about a cave far to the north where the walls glowed without firelight. They said it shimmered like ice over stone. You believed them, if only because the way they told it made you want it to be true. When they left, they took only what you gave. Nothing more. No theft. No threats. Just footprints vanishing west. You never saw them again, but they left something behind. A comb, carved from bone, with lines and patterns you've never fully understood. Someone still uses it, though it pulls more hair than it untangles. No one minds. It is beautiful. And that is rare. You reach the camp and feel the wind settle as you cross into the warmth of your people's breath. Your cousin waves you over, crouched beside the fire, wearing an expression caught somewhere between embarrassment and complaint. He holds something in both hands. You kneel beside him and look, a pendant. Or what used to be. A carved tooth, long and sharp. Cracked now, split clean down the middle. He mutters that it fell into the fire. He was trying to warm it, maybe clean it, maybe just admire it. Now it is 2 halves, you nod slowly, solemnly. This is the clumsy side of the Ice Age. The mistakes no one writes stories about. You take the pieces. Examine the edges. The break is clean. Salvageable. You reach into your pouch and pull out a strip of sinew. Begin threading it back together. It won't look the same. But it will hold. Most things do, if you bind them carefully enough. Near the fire, 2 others are arguing in hushed tones. Their voices are low, urgent. You catch fragments. The word hunting. The word boundary. The word stealing. Someone believes another tribe is creeping too close. Setting traps too near. No one can be certain. But the tension in the air is thick. Thicker than the stew simmering in a hollowed-out mammoth skull beside the flames. Then someone calls for a meeting. You gather, all of you. 13 today. 1 child is asleep under a bearskin. Snoring softly, so they only count halfway. The rest of you form a circle near the hearth. The fire snaps as it settles. Shadows dance on the cave walls, the discussion begins, voices overlap. Ideas clash. Some argue you should follow the prince. Speak to the strangers. Some say leave. Pack up the camp before others decide to do it for you. You listen to it all. Measure the weight of every sentence. There is no leader here. No titles. No vote. Just those who have lived long enough to be heard. You raise your hand. When they quiet, you speak. Caution. That is your suggestion. Not fear. Not delay. But care. Return to the tracks tomorrow. Bring more eyes. More strength. If it turns to trade, good. If it turns to teeth, better to have a few of your own. They nod. Slowly. The decision settles into place. For now, at least, historians might one day uncover places where people once gathered like this. Circles of stone. Fire pits. Natural bowls carved into rock or ice. They'll call them meeting sites. They'll say early humans used them to discuss plans. But what they really were was this. People, around fire, trying to decide what kind of story to write next. Later that night, you sit by the hearth, still holding the mended pendant. The crack is visible, but it has become part of the design now. The tooth is whole again, even if it will never be perfect. You stare at the flame and think of the strangers. Out there. Somewhere. Walking across the same snow. Facing the same cold. Carrying the same fear, and the same fragile hope. You wonder what they see when they notice your footprints. Do they pause? Do they imagine you as threat or kin? Do they think your fire might welcome them? You lean back against the cave wall. The rock is cold through your cloak. The others are settling into their own forms of rest. Someone hums. A sound that drifts up and out like smoke. It has no words. It doesn't need them. It carries feeling better than speech. You close your eyes, tomorrow might bring visitors. Or warnings. Or silence, but tonight, you are here. Among your own. Still wrapped in fur. Still holding sharpened sticks. Still deciding what kind of humans you're going to be, and for a little while longer, that is enough. Morning arrives with all the subtlety of a mammoth stumbling through a patch of ripe berries. There is no gentle light, no whispered invitation to rise. Instead, there is chaos. Someone stumbles over a log near the fire and lets out a string of curses that predates most recognizable language. The kind of guttural fury only earned through stubbed toes and frozen mornings. A child begins to cry, shrill and sudden, because their rabbit-skin mitten has ended up on the wrong hand and refuses to cooperate. Another figure, half wrapped in a sleek cloak, is already gnawing on a strip of dried root. Their eyes are distant, unfocused, staring through time, as if already bracing for whatever comes next. You groan as you sit up, every joint stiff from cold and curled sleep. Your knees complain, your elbows creak, and your face feels raw. Windburn lingers on your cheeks and nose like a cruel souvenir from yesterday. You run your tongue over your teeth. Your mouth tastes like sleep and old broth. But underneath it all, you sense something else. A shift. A change in the air. Today feels different, not in any obvious way. The wind still howls across the plain. The fire still struggles to stay lit. The sky still hangs low with heavy gray. But there is a buzz in the camp, a quiet current of energy moving between people like static. Voices murmur more than usual. Hands fidget. Eyes glance your way. Then quickly away. You rub your face with the heel of your palm, trying to scrub away the sleep and the suspicion. You search your mind for anything you might have done, and then you remember, the tracks. The ridge. The strangers. The possibility of visitors. Of traders. Or trouble. Before you can dwell on it, someone approaches and offers you breakfast. It's a half-cooked fish, still cool in the center, edges charred black. They hand it to you with a grin so lopsided it's either mischief or madness. Maybe both. You take the fish because your stomach doesn't care. It is chewy. Rubbery. Slightly frozen in the middle. You chew through it with patience and make a small approving noise. Not because it deserves it, but because effort should always be acknowledged, and then you see her. She stands near the edge of camp, partially framed by a curtain of snow-dusted pine. Her silhouette is sharp against the soft white behind her. She is wrapped in layered furs, arms crossed. Chin raised slightly as if daring the morning to test her. Her posture says everything. She is not from your group. She is new. And she is not hiding, you blink. Several others do too. It's subtle, but the air shifts again. The strangers must have arrived before dawn. They were quiet. They made peace with whoever was on perimeter watch. And now they are here. Fully present. Calmly evaluating your firewood, your shelter, your people. She catches your eye. Raises an eyebrow. The movement is slow. Measured. You raise yours in response. It is not flirtation. Not yet. But it is the beginning of something that might become love, if that word even applies in a time like this, is not built on poetry. It is not a dance of metaphors or candlelight. It is built on practical things. Shared warmth. Good boots. A working knee. A full set of teeth. The ability to carry firewood without whining. That's as romantic as it gets. You step forward, closing the distance between you with deliberate pace. No introductions. Not the formal kind. You offer her a scrap of smoked meat, torn from a pouch at your side. She accepts it without hesitation. She brings it to her nose, sniffs once, then nods. Ice Age courtship in its purest form. She speaks first. Her voice is soft, shaped by an accent close enough to yours that you understand pieces. Every third word lands clearly. The rest you fill in with guesses and nods. She gestures toward her group, 3 others. 2 are older. 1 is younger. They sit near the fire, hands extended toward the flames, faces calm, eyes alert. Her people do not look like a threat. Their bodies carry weariness more than aggression. Their gear is serviceable but worn. Their eyes watch, but not with suspicion. You allow your breath to slow. No weapons are drawn. No voices raised. Your group seems to recognize the same. Tension lingers, but it softens. By midday, the invisible wall between your people and theirs begins to fade. Slowly. Awkwardly. Someone offers a clay bowl filled with hot broth, thick with pine and root. One of the visitors accepts it and drinks in silence. Another is handed a woven mat to sit on. No one speaks much, but no one moves away either. She sits beside you now. Unannounced. Unapologetic. She settles into the space like she has always been there. You do not object. In the Ice Age, sitting close is more than warmth. It is a signal. A shared moment. A test. You smell the same things in her fur that linger in your own: ash, smoke, hide glue, the faint scent of meat. It is comforting. It means you do not need to explain anything. Some historians believe early humans had elaborate courtship rituals. Others think it was simpler. A look. A shared blanket. A common need. Whatever the truth, archaeologists have found graves with 2 people curled together, tucked beneath shared fur. Evidence, perhaps, that even among the roughest lives, there was tenderness. You reach into your pouch and pull out a bead. It is small, carved from bone, etched with a simple spiral pattern. You made it weeks ago, during a storm. You do not know why. Boredom. Habit. Hope. You hand it to her. She holds it between thumb and forefinger, turns it once, twice. Then she ties it to her belt without comment. That is probably a yes. Later, you walk together near the tree line. Not far. Not alone. Always within earshot. Always just enough distance to be together, not watched. She points to a bird perched high in a tree. Its feathers ruffle against the wind. You point toward the bent trunk of a tree that collapsed during last month's storm. Her hand dips into a pouch. She pulls out a few dried berries. Offers you one. In return, you give her a strip of sinew candy, a strange, chewy treat your cousin swears is edible. She tries it. Doesn't grimace. A good sign, you find a quiet place to sit. The snow crunches softly beneath you. The sky above is shifting. Clouds move fast today, dragging lines of shadow across the ground. The two of you sit without speaking for a while. Words are unnecessary. Eventually, she laughs at something. You're not sure what. Then she reaches over and taps your shoulder with a soft punch. A gesture of familiarity. You grin. Archaeologists have uncovered figurines carved from stone and bone. Broad-hipped women. Full-bodied. Rounded. Powerful. No one agrees on their purpose. Maybe they were gods. Maybe they were mothers. Maybe they were just early attempts at a complement carved into permanence. Back at camp, the two groups begin to exchange goods. Trade unfolds slowly, cautiously, but with surprising ease. Hides for bone needles. Fishhooks for flint. A few items passed hand to hand. A few nods. A few small grunts of agreement. No raised voices. Just the shared truth of winter. Everyone is tired of being hungry. Your aunt offers one of your better cloaks. The one with the good hood. In return, she receives a slab of dried elk meat wrapped in bark. You wince quietly, but say nothing. That cloak was warm. But food is warmer. As night falls, no one sends the strangers away. They help pile wood near the fire. They unroll their furs and add them to the sleeping pile. Even the children begin to ease. One of the visitors pulls a handful of carved animals from a pouch. Toys. Tiny creatures worn smooth by years of small fingers. He hands them to the youngest child without ceremony. The child takes them with silent wonder. You lie down near the hearth, bones sore, body heavy. She lies nearby. Not touching. Not yet. But close enough that you feel her presence like a second heartbeat. The fire crackles. The shadows grow long. Someone tells a story. Their voice rises and falls with the rhythm of memory. It is a tale of a star that fell to earth and became a wolf. Its body made of flame, its eyes of frost. You close your eyes and listen, the sound curling around you like fur. The day fades. The tension softens. You think, as your mind begins to drift, about how strange it is to feel so close to someone you met only hours ago. But maybe that's what survival truly is, not just about meat and tools and weather. Not just about the mammoth or the hunt. Not just about staying alive. Maybe it's about this, finding someone who will share the fire with you, even if they snore. You glance at her. She is sleeping. Or pretending. You smile. Close your eyes. Let the warmth carry you into the dark. You wake up to chaos. Not the kind that sends people running for spears or screaming about wolves, but something far more insidious. This is the domestic variety, the small-scale mayhem of young minds left unsupervised for more than 3 minutes. One of the children has discovered the fire tongs and is waving them triumphantly like a war trophy. Another, slightly faster, is chasing them around with a half-burned branch still trailing wisps of smoke. A third group is crouched by the hearth, attempting to stack a precarious tower out of soup bones. It topples instantly, and they erupt into wails of betrayal and accusations so passionate it could be mistaken for diplomacy. A baby, still mostly nose and curiosity, has shuffled too close to the edge of the soup pot. Its tiny fingers reach for the rim. Without thinking, you reach out one arm, haul the little creature back by the scruff of its hide tunic, and set it safely on your lap. You are rewarded not with thanks, but with a gummy, slobbery grin and a damp handful of chewed bark. The bark is deposited into your palm as if it were a gift from the gods. Welcome to Ice Age parenting. Or rather, the less dignified version, child wrangling. Parenting suggests a level of authority and structure that you, and everyone else in the cave, abandoned seasons ago. Children here are more like small, shrieking weather systems. You cannot predict them. You cannot contain them. You can only endure them. You sit up, slowly and stiffly. Your back protests. Your legs ache. One side of your face feels like it was used as a pillow by a bison. You glance down. It wasn't a bison, but possibly the reindeer hide you sleep on. Or possibly a very heavy cousin. Either way, something drooled on you during the night. You brush at your arm with a groan, half-hearted and resigned. The cave is dim with early light, and the smoke from last night's fire still hangs low in the air. You squint as your eyes adjust. All around you, people are stirring, stretching, shuffling. The new arrivals are still here, their forms huddled near the main fire. They're quiet, polite, keeping their movements minimal. Not intruding. Not disappearing either. She is there too, across the fire pit, tucked between two older figures. She lifts her eyes to meet yours. The smile she gives is quick, private. A flicker, nothing more. She returns her attention to the child clinging to her knee and resumes the universal adult task of avoiding tiny feet. You nod in response. It is not romantic. Not overt. But in a world ruled by survival, a nod like that carries weight. It says I see you. It says you matter. An elder tries to call for quiet. They raise one hand and gesture for stillness. The room responds by becoming exponentially louder. Two children have entered into a fierce tug-of-war over a bone flute. The fact that neither has any clue how to play the thing is entirely beside the point. Another child is gnawing enthusiastically on someone's fur-lined cloak, probably mistaking it for a snack. The elder groans. His hand drops. His spirit does too. You meet his eyes and offer a look filled with mutual exhaustion. It says we are no longer the ones in charge. The under 4-foot tribe has won. You decide to re-establish order, or at least the illusion of it. You round up a cluster of the slightly older children, the ones who no longer drool but haven't yet figured out sarcasm. These are the ones you can still bribe with stories or threaten with chores. You assign them to firewood duty with all the stern authority you can muster. They grumble. You grunt. The chain of command remains intact. Scholars have long debated whether Ice Age children were given formal instruction or simply left to imitate the chaos around them. Based on your personal experience, the evidence points overwhelmingly toward the latter. You've seen their handiwork firsthand, tools snapped in half, carvings that resemble frightened vegetables, and cave paintings that might just be mud with aspirations. Prehistoric education is mostly trial, error, and occasionally setting things on fire. You follow them out into the cold to supervise. Just a little, the snow crunches under your feet as you lead the troop toward the edge of the woods. One child carries a woven basket that bounces against their knees. Another is dragging a net bag that looks far too heavy for their size. A third proudly hauls an entire branch nearly twice their height, leaving a long furrow behind them like a miniature glacier. They talk non-stop as they walk, the kind of chatter that weaves through several topics at once. Which bugs taste worst? Which moss is best for toasting? Whether snow can be melted fast enough to make pee disappear. You find a small clearing near a stand of bare shrubs, where a bundle of fallen limbs lies tangled beneath the branches. You point it out, but the kids are already scrambling toward it, shouting over each other about who saw it first. The argument is loud and familiar. You mediate like a seasoned negotiator, assigning sections and roles with the kind of calm authority you wish you had last night during soup distribution. Soon, there is a reasonable pile of twigs and branches beside you. Two of the children, no longer interested in work, have flopped down into the snow and begun wiggling like fish. They claim to be seals. You allow it. You remind yourself, as you often do, that even in a world made of cold and hunger, children still play. They still invent. they still collapse into laughter over nothing. That, in itself, is a miracle. One of the kids asks you if you've ever fought a real mammoth. You puff out your chest and prepare to deliver a fabricated tale of bravery. But before you can begin, another child interrupts to declare they once saw a mammoth fall into a river and scream like a chicken. This leads to a noisy reenactment that involves flailing arms, flopping legs, and wild sound effects. Your audience forgets your story completely, you sigh. Kids, back at the cave, someone has set a pot to boil bark tea over the hearth. Someone else, hunched near the wall, is trying to repair a sling while also bouncing a baby on one hip. The two tasks appear mutually exclusive. You step aside as a boy sprints past. His face painted with soot and a bird's skull tied to his head like a ceremonial helmet. You are unsure whether to be impressed by his creativity or worried for his mental state. Archaeologists have found miniature tools and figurines buried in old settlements, tiny harpoons, carved animals, and strange little objects no adult would ever use. They suggest that even in the Ice Age, children had toys. Perhaps even games. And certainly, a strange sense of humor. You regroup the children again, this time for a task that does not actually need doing. You instruct them to sort stones by size and importance. They take this mission with a seriousness that would baffle your ancestors. You nod wisely. The activity is pointless, but it gives the adults a few precious moments of silence. That is its true value. Later, a child from the visiting group wanders over. Their face is cautious but curious. They hold out a pouch made from soft leather. Inside are small stones, each painted with a different symbol: sun, bear, wave, fire. The shapes are clean, the colors faded but visible. You recognize some of them. Others are new. It might be a story. It might be a game. You sit down beside them and let the game begin. Soon, you are surrounded by a ring of small humans, all eager to make up rules and break them in the same breath. They roll stones, swap them, argue loudly, then forget why they were arguing. It is messy. It is unpredictable. It is perfect. She watches from the fire, chin resting on one hand. She mouths something toward you. You can't quite catch it, but the curve of her smile makes you return one of your own. By the time dusk settles into the bones of the cave, the children are spent. They lie tangled in sleep, wrapped in cloaks, curled against siblings, sprawled across the laps of exhausted parents. Their breath is soft and rhythmic. Their cheeks are pink from cold and play. You, somehow, have survived the day. You have stepped in juice. You have been climbed on. Your hair is now tied into 6 separate braids of varying tightness. And yet, you feel light. Not because you've done something extraordinary, but because in the midst of everything, you found laughter, because even when the fire burns low, even when the winds howl outside, the children still laugh. They still learn. They still hurl bones like missiles and claim it was an accident, and that, perhaps, is the most important thing of all. You scan the room one final time before you surrender to sleep. The fire is a soft bed of orange coals. The air smells of broth and smoke. She is resting not far away, her breathing slow and even, and you, miracle of miracles, are still here. The cave smells like smoke and stew and the faint musk of damp fur clinging to the walls and woven into every cloak and tunic. It is the scent of survival. It seeps into everything you own. Even your breath carries a hint of ash now. You wake slowly, emerging from dreams tangled with mammoths and echoes, still wrapped in a thick pile of hides that feel both too heavy and never quite warm enough. The edges of the dream linger, blurred memories of a hunt, or maybe a story someone told last night. You stretch, carefully, to avoid disturbing the sleeping bundle beside you. One of the little ones has migrated in the night and is now using your shin as a pillow, mouth slightly open, breath warm and steady. You shift with the care of someone who has practiced the art of not waking children. The fire has already been coaxed back to life. Someone, probably your aunt, has added a new log and a few dry twigs. The flames crackle low, bright against the dim blue of early morning. Farther back, where the light begins to fade into shadow, someone is speaking softly. Not words exactly. More like a murmur. A kind of muttering, rhythmic and distracted. You push aside your hide covering and squint into the gloom. There, crouched near the far wall, is your uncle. At first, he seems to be fixing something, maybe mending a net or scraping a tool. But as your eyes adjust, you see the colors. Ochre. Charcoal, berry stain, mixed in bowls and smeared on fingers. He is painting. A new piece. You blink again. Yes. Definitely new. Curious, you begin to crawl toward him, picking your way across the sleeping forms of cousins, friends, and a few visitors still curled in tight heaps. You pause only once, lifting a limb carefully when a stray elbow threatens to send a baby rolling. The stone beneath your knees is cold, and your muscles are still sluggish with sleep, but curiosity carries you the rest of the way. Your uncle is hunched forward, fully focused, his fingers blackened from charcoal and sticky with the deep red of crushed berries. The pigment stains his nails, his knuckles, even the underside of his nose. The wall before him is a tapestry of half-finished lines and bold shapes. A mammoth looms large at the center, its tusks curled and exaggerated, eyes dark and solemn. Below it, a human figure with a spear leans forward, mid-step. Behind that, another person stands awkwardly, arms outstretched, hair flaring in every direction, nose, undeniably impressive. You stare at it, then glance sideways at him. That one's me, isn't it? You say, tapping his shoulder. He jumps slightly. Startled, and drags a line of charcoal right across his own cheek. He freezes. You both hesitate. Then, silently and with great dignity, you pretend it didn't happen. Cave painting isn't rare. Your group has always told stories this way. But each time someone takes up pigment, it feels different. Every new image becomes part truth, part memory, part exaggeration so bold it might as well be legend. You look at the mammoth, its legs steady and symmetrical. The real one had been far more lopsided, dripping with mud and bellowing like thunder. But here, in the cave, it becomes timeless. Your uncle hums under his breath as he works, an old rhythm passed down from someone who probably couldn't sing but did anyway. He pauses only to chew a strip of dried sinew, which he insists helps him focus. You sit beside him, hands resting on your knees, and watch as he outlines a new figure in red. The color spills around the shape like blood or maybe just flare. He finishes the arc, then taps the spear-bearer with a pigment-smeared finger. He grunts once. Then points at you. You raise an eyebrow. That's supposed to be me. He nods solemnly, lips pressed into a line of artistic intent. Then he sneezes violently, right into his hand. The moment dies instantly. Spirituality in your camp has never been a system of strict rules or rituals. It is something looser, more instinctive. A series of gestures, habits, and hunches. On some days, it means dancing in a circle until your feet ache. On others, it means offering the cleanest fish bones to the riverbank and whispering a wish. Sometimes it means scratching mammoths into stone until your fingers blister. Historians in distant futures will argue whether these paintings are religious, practical, or just stories told by bored people with berry paste. Some images show clear hunts and battles. Others? A bison balancing on another bison. You doubt anyone alive could explain that one. Behind you. A low chant begins. A voice rises, not quite melody, not quite speech. You turn and see the elders gathering. They are forming a slow circle near the fire, arranging stones in patterns they have arranged before and will arrange again. Someone sprinkles a mix of dried herbs and pine onto a small dish set beside the coals. The fire receives it with a sizzle. The smoke curls upward, thick and sweet, sharp with resin. You rise quietly and join them. She is there too, already standing beside you. Her hair is braided tight, threads of sinew woven through, with tiny bones and feathers tucked along the sides like secrets. Her eyes are half-lidded, caught somewhere between this world and the one the smoke is calling. You nod. She nods back. Words feel unnecessary. The ritual does not begin with a speech. It begins with movement. The oldest woman steps forward, her feet dragging slowly through the ash, leaving a looping pattern behind. She carries a dried branch, and it whispers against the stone as she moves in wide arcs. The others join her. One by one. You step in too. There is no instruction. There is no beat to follow. But somehow, the rhythm exists. It is old. It is familiar. It is already in your feet. Someone taps stones together in time with the motion. Another hums, long and low, like the wind trapped inside a hollow tree. The cave fills with sound and silence in equal measure. The children gather near the wall, eyes wide, cheeks smudged, watching with the reverence only the very young can hold. In a cave somewhere far to the west, scholars will one day find red handprints beside animal drawings. They will wonder if these marks were prayers, or signatures, or a kind of map to the soul. You wonder the same thing. Even now, you take your place in the circle, arms raised. Not to pray, not exactly. But to take part. To be here. The fire cracks. The herbs hiss. The smoke twists like thread. Weaving shapes in the air, antlers, wings, spiral tails. It dances, then someone tosses a handful of powder into the flames, and the entire hearth leaps up in a sudden blaze of blue light. The cave gasps. The children squeal in amazement. A baby burps, blissfully unaware of the moment's magic, and just like that, everything shifts. The awe turns to laughter. Deep, honest laughter that fills the walls and spills into every corner. Your uncle, mid-squat, topples backward into a heap. One of the visiting strangers claps their hands with pure delight. The ceremony, once solemn, softens into celebration. Silence returns, eventually. Not the awkward kind. The good kind. The sacred kind. You stay seated. The others do too. You feel it. A change. Not loud. Not dramatic. But something inside you settles. The hunger, the cold, the constant planning, they slip into the background for just a while. You reach into your pouch and pull out a small carved figure. It is a crude animal, some sort of lion or perhaps a confused goat. You place it gently beside the fire. An offering. A hope. A moment of thanks. Others do the same. A chip of carved bone. A strip of braided fiber. A small mat, barely large enough to sit on. The fire accepts everything. Later, after the ashes cool and the smoke thins, you sit beside her again. She leans in, close but not touching, and whispers the name of her home. The word is light and sweeping, like wind through tall grass in spring. You whisper your own in return. It is heavier, broken into pieces by frost and stone. You don't say anything else. In your world, everything changes. The weather shifts without warning. The animals migrate. The food runs low. But this fire, this shared ritual, this small collection of stories and strange magic, it remains. It holds. Maybe the spirits are real. Maybe they are memories. Maybe they are something your ancestors made to explain the inexplicable. Either way. Tonight, they feel close enough to touch, so you sit. A little longer. Let the warmth press into your skin. Let the hush hold its shape, then someone sneezes. A child crashes into a reindeer skull. And just like that, the moment unravels, not ruined, just transformed. The magic gives way to the morning again, and life continues, beautifully, stubbornly, as it always has. The snow is falling again. Not in frantic gusts, not in angry sheets, but in that slow, deliberate way that suggests the sky has nothing better to do. It drifts down like the earth is being tucked in, one flake at a time, white layer upon white layer. You sit at the cave mouth, legs drawn up, chewing slowly on a strip of dried fish that tastes mostly like salt and regret. The cold gnaws at your fingertips through your gloves, and you try very hard not to think about what the day will require from you. You already know. Another trap. Another hole. Another attempt to coax dinner from the frozen ground. The game trails have gone quiet. Nothing with hooves has wandered close in days. Even the reindeer tracks are shallow. Faded. Something in the air has shifted. Maybe they've moved on. Maybe they know what you're planning. You exhale and watch your breath swirl into the wind. Food stores are thinning. The marrow bones are cracked open. The root basket is mostly empty. There's still stew, but it's grown watery, full of boiled bark and vague memories of flavor. What your group needs now is something large. Something heavy with meat and wrapped in a thick layer of fat. Something that once thundered across the plains but now limps closer, hungry and unsuspecting. Today is Mammoth Trap Day. You rise slowly and gather the crew. 3 others join you, each one hardened by winters past and each with their own collection of bruises from previous pit-related adventures. You trust them. Mostly because they've all survived falling into their own traps and lived to laugh about it. That's the sort of resilience you want on your team. Together, you collect the tools. Ropes coiled tight. Spears sharpened and tied with sinew. A digging stick worn smooth by years of impact. One of the crew carries a bundle of dry brush strapped across their back. Another holds the flask of pine sap like it's sacred. No one remembers exactly how it was discovered that mammoths like pine sap. Some say it was a child with sticky hands. Others claim a mammoth once chased someone through a pine grove and never looked back. You hike across the open plain, breath rising in clouds, boots crunching over crusted snow. The air is still, except for the sound of footsteps and the occasional grunt as someone stumbles on hidden ice. After an hour, you reach a bluff where 3 game paths meet. It's familiar territory. You've trapped here before. The ground is cold and hard, mostly frozen mud with only a whisper of snow. Just soft enough to dig. Just stubborn enough to make you wish you hadn't. The work begins. You stab the earth with your digging stick, testing resistance. Then you all start carving. Peeling layers of packed soil like ancient bark. The pit must be large. Large enough to catch something the size of a hut. You sweat. You groan. Bone scrapes against stone. One of you curses a rock so stubborn it might be cursed itself. The cold doesn't disappear as you work, but it fades to the background. Muscles warm. Breath grows deeper. Shovelfuls of dirt fly. The hole widens. 4 feet deep. Then 5. You remember the last time, how the mammoth's front half fell in, but its back legs held steady. It had climbed out, offended more than injured, and you had all scattered like frightened birds. Not this time. Around midday, you call a break. Everyone drops their tools and slumps against stones or into shallow snow drifts. One crew member offers a pouch of pickled roots. Another pulls out something that used to be a squirrel and now resembles jerky with teeth. They hand you a leg. You accept it without question. It's tough. Salty. It reminds you of old boots. Still, it's food, and food is comfort. Then comes the brushwork. You weave branches, long and spindly, across the mouth of the pit. Moss is stuffed between the gaps, followed by a dusting of snow to disguise the whole thing. The trap must be perfect. Strong enough to hold weight for a moment. Weak enough to collapse completely. You remember the time someone danced on a poorly made cover, trying to show off a new chant rhythm, and fell straight in. They broke 2 ribs and a great deal of dignity. With the trap disguised, you open the flask and pour a thin trail of pine sap across the snow. It glistens dark and sticky. You follow with a scatter of crushed berries, mostly frozen, their color like bruises on the white earth. Mammoths love berries. At least once. One did. And now it has become law. Then you wait, you hide behind a jagged outcrop of stone, backs pressed to rock, cloaks pulled tight. The wind picks up. The cold returns. First to your nose, then to your fingers, then to your toes. Time begins to stretch. Minutes feel like hours. Your joints stiffen. You try to shift without making sound, but the snow crunches no matter how careful you are. Conversation is forbidden now. Every whisper feels like a risk, then, at last, movement, a shape on the far edge of the plain. Large. Shaggy. Heavy-footed. You freeze, barely breathing. The figure lumbers forward, flanked by its own fog of breath. A mammoth. Probably old. Wide across the shoulders. You nudge your companions, eyes locked. It pauses. Sniffs the air. Its trunk curls and uncurls like a question. Then, slowly, it walks forward, following the scent trail. You all go still. Every muscle held like a coiled spring. The mammoth steps. Pauses. Sniffs. Steps again. It reaches the edge of the trap. You grip your spear tighter. Your pulse climbs into your throat. The mammoth lowers its head, as if listening, then it steps forward. The mat gives. A series of loud cracks. A panicked trumpet. The snow collapses inward. And the great beast disappears in a flurry of movement. It worked. You erupt from hiding. All of you run forward, yelling commands, circling the pit. The mammoth thrashes inside, legs kicking, tusks stabbing the air. You throw spears. Again. Again. Each one finds flesh. You aim low. You stay quick. It bellows, then weakens. Then stops. The silence feels strange. You approach slowly. The beast is still. Its breath has faded. Steam curls from its body into the cold. You lower your weapon. Your arms are trembling. Not from fear. From exhaustion. From the weight of necessity, you climb down into the pit. The heat radiates from the body like a furnace. You begin to work. Skinning. Butchering. Harvesting fat and tendon and muscle. The smell is sharp. A mix of iron and sweat and something older. You save the bones. The tusks. The inner organs. Nothing is wasted. Hours pass. The sun begins to set, turning the snow orange and then gray. When you finally return to camp, it is with sleds piled high, flesh wrapped in hide, tools lashed tight. The children cheer, their voices high and thrilled. The elders nod solemnly. You have brought life home. She greets you at the edge of the firelight, holding a bowl of steaming broth. You take it. You drink. It burns your tongue but fills your chest with warmth. You smile. Later, the fire crackles high, and stories begin. Someone tells of a mammoth that fell into a trap and crawled out wearing part of a pine tree like a crown. You laugh. You add a twist. Someone else swears they saw a mammoth once leap over a pit entirely. The cave echoes with laughter. The meat will feed the group for weeks. Maybe months. The hide will become cloaks. The bones, tools. The tusks will bring trade. Nothing will be wasted. You sit back and stretch, firelight dancing across your cheeks. The stars outside blink slowly. The snow keeps falling. You are full. You are warm. And, most importantly, you didn't fall into the trap. In the Ice Age, that counts as a victory worth remembering. The wind has changed. It is not louder in the way that signals a storm, not sharper in the way that slices the skin, but it carries something different now. It moves with a weight you can feel in your chest and down your spine. It slips between the trees with a low, steady moan, as if the forest itself has learned to speak and is trying to form a warning in vowels of ice. The hide curtain flutters as though something unseen has brushed past it. You step outside the cave into the dimness of early dawn and raise your eyes to the north, and there it is, the glacier. You blink, just to be sure, just to confirm that the shape in the distance is not a cloud bank, not another trick of fog and light. But no, it is real. An immense wall of compressed time and frozen sky. It was always there, somewhere beyond the ridges, a slow creeping rumor that no one wanted to believe. But now, in this pale morning light, it is undeniable. A jagged spine of blue and gray that stretches from one horizon to the next, steady and silent, as if the land has drawn a deep breath and begun to exhale frost. You shiver, but not entirely from the cold. The elders had spoken of this. Whispers at first, then warnings, then the silence of certainty. The ice is moving again, pressing south like a continent learning how to walk. Which means your time here, in this cave that has sheltered your people for 2 winters and longer, is reaching its end. You duck back inside. The fire has mostly died, leaving behind a glow of embers that flicker like forgotten thoughts. You grab your spear from the wall and begin the familiar ritual of waking the camp. A gentle nudge for the baby curled beside its mother. A soft grunt for the elder with the sore knee. And one solid kick for your cousin, the one who always lies still with his eyes half open, pretending he's met his dramatic end until someone mentions breakfast. Slowly, one by one, the others begin to stir. Blankets are shrugged off. Joints creak. Voices murmur in that just waking tone, low, gritty, still unsure of the day's shape. The air inside the cave feels tighter than usual. Like it knows what you all know but are trying not to say out loud. Change is coming. Not the small kind. The big kind. The kind that pulls up roots and leaves charcoal drawings behind. This place, with its layered furs and stone hearth, with its stories carved on walls and smoke that always finds your eyes, this place has been home. You've hunted from here, slept through snowstorms here, danced and grieved and grown older in these shadows. But now the signs are too many. The animals have begun to vanish. The river eastward has taken on a strange sound, groaning under thin ice. The snow falls in new patterns that make no sense and offer no comfort. It is time to move. There is talk. Someone suggests the valley beyond the southern ridge, where the winds are gentler and the trees still hold leaves. Others argue for the cliffs by the coast, remembering the salt smell and distant bird calls. A few mention the strangers who left moons ago, their backs full of stories about a land where winter forgets to stay, where fish leap without fear and trees drop fruit into open hands. The group listens, but no one agrees at first. There is tension, not anger, but that quiet hesitation that lives in the space between familiarity and risk. The kind that arrives when you know what must be done but still hope something will stop you. Historians, in their far-off warmth, will someday debate whether these journeys were seasonal or permanent, planned or panicked. They'll argue over bones and footprints. But you already know the truth. These choices are never just one thing. They are instinct wrapped in memory. They are desperation carrying hope. They are the quiet chant that says, not here, not now. Somewhere else. You step outside again, this time not alone. She walks beside you, wrapped tight in layers of fur stitched with care. Her hair is braided with small bones and bits of shell that click softly when the wind catches them. Frost clings to her lashes. You say nothing to each other. You don't need to. Your feet follow the same trail through the woods, the same path worn smooth by years of coming and going, always believing there would be another return, but the woods feel different now. There is a silence that hums. No birds. No rustling underbrush. The snow here holds no prints except yours. Even the foxes, with their clever eyes and playful yips, seem to have vanished. Then, a sound. A branch breaking overhead. You both crouch. Still. Watching, a small herd of elk moves through the trees just ahead. They walk quickly, their hooves crunching the frost with no rhythm. Their heads stay low, eyes wide, ears twitching at everything. They are not running from you. They are running from something colder. Something older. Something that moves behind the tree line without making a sound. You watch them go, their shadows stretched long against the snow. When the last one disappears into the trees, you exhale, you look north again, there it is. The glacier, and in your chest, something settles. Not panic. Not dread. But a sadness that feels round and full. The knowledge that you are about to leave behind a place you have loved. A place that has loved you back in its own hard way. You return to the cave with the news. The evening meal is quiet. No fire songs. No flute made of bone. Just the circle. Just the waiting. The decision has to be made, and it will not be spoken with raised voices or long speeches. That is not your way. A stone is cleared. Soot is spread. Trails are drawn with ash-tipped fingers. Landmarks remembered. Dangers noted. You stand and speak slowly. The glacier. The elk. The wind. The forest. You describe the valley beyond the ridge. You mention the spring there, the one that runs all year, even in frost. You haven't seen it yourself, but someone once said it was there. Close enough to believe, and then, the vote, no hands raised. No shouting. Just the bodies leaning forward, the nods held for longer than usual, the small tilts of agreement. Even the silence says yes. You leave at dawn, the rest of the night is filled with motion. Packs are filled. Skins rolled tight. Tools sharpened and counted. The last of the meat is smoked and bundled. Children are given colored beads strung on leather thongs to wear around their necks. Protective charms. Distractions. Maybe both. You walk the cave one final time. The walls carry your stories. There's the mammoth your uncle painted, tusks proud and body impossibly round. There's the mark of your first hunt. There's a crooked figure with comically long arms and a wide grin. You touch that one. Someone once said it looked like you. You press your palm gently to the wall beside it. You will not see it again. Quirky fact, archaeologists have found caves layered with handprints upon handprints, dozens deep, each new generation pressing into the stone where others once did. No one knows if they meant goodbye or hello or simply said, I was here. That night, you sit beside her. She pulls a small bead from her pouch. The one you carved from bone and gave her in quiet laughter. She ties it to her belt and leans her head to your shoulder. No words. The fire burns low, the children sleep, the glacier waits, and for this one last night, you lie beneath a ceiling of ancient stone, wrapped in memory and resolve, knowing that tomorrow, you will carry more than supplies on your back. You will carry history. You will carry love. You will carry the will to begin again. Morning doesn't arrive gently. It shows up like a rude neighbor, flinging open the door with a gust of wind and a sharp nudge to your ribs. You stir, groggy, half lost in a dream about warm soup and still fires, only to feel the unmistakable pressure of a foot planting itself directly onto your satchel. You jolt upward, blinking against the haze of sleep, and find your cousin standing above you with the expression of someone who has been caught in the act but refuses to apologize. He offers a sheepish grunt by way of greeting and clutches an awkward bundle of furs that are clearly not his. Judging by the dangling beads and embroidered patches, they belong to someone older, and probably grumpier. No one corrects him. No one is fully awake, but everyone is moving. The cave is alive with a slow, uneven rhythm, the kind that only comes from people trying to do everything at once while not fully understanding what comes next. The air is thick and layered, saturated with the scent of last night's fire, pine sap still clinging to the logs, and the unmistakable tang of nervous sweat. It clings to your skin and seeps into your clothes. You move through it like someone underwater, ducking between packs and people, lending a hand where you can. You help the youngest children tie their boots, fumbling with stiff leather thongs and tiny feet that keep wriggling. You help the elders shoulder their heavy packs, adjusting the weight to rest where it hurts least. Your hands move automatically. Your thoughts are slower. You glance around the cave one last time. It doesn't look the same in the pale morning light. Every surface has been scraped clean. Every bundle packed. The fire pit, once the center of warmth and stories, has been doused and buried under a blanket of ash and snow. It looks like a grave. You pause a moment, letting the silence press into you, then you step out. The light outside is soft and colorless. The sky stretches above you in a flat sheet of gray, the kind that promises more snow before the sun has a chance to intervene. The trees ahead sway gently, their branches weighed down by fresh drifts. The air smells cold, clean, unfamiliar. Behind you, the cave mouth looms dark and still, an open hollow that no longer offers comfort. It yawns like a mouth that has stopped speaking, stopped singing, stopped dreaming, and just like that, you leave it all behind. The migration begins. There is no signal. No chant to mark the start. Just the quiet sound of boots pressing into snow, the crunch of footsteps layered one after another, the soft murmur of breath carried on cold air. Somewhere behind you, a child asks for food even though the journey has only just begun. Someone laughs, tired but genuine. You take the lead, spear in hand, eyes scanning the trail ahead with a mixture of caution and habit. At first, the group follows the familiar ridge path, winding along the slope where the snow is shallow and the wind is less cruel. The rocks here are dark and slick, but the path is known. Soon, the trail dips into the lower woods, where the trees grow thicker and the frost gathers on every twig like delicate white lace. In these shadows, you can see the marks of others, footprints smoothed by time, paw prints you do not recognize, long grooves where sleds once passed. You pause at one tree, where deep claw marks have been etched into the bark. They are old, but they make you glance behind you. The group moves in uneven clusters. The children are kept at the center, ringed by adults whose eyes never stop moving. The elders ride on makeshift sleds pulled by two of your stronger cousins, their bodies swaddled in thick hides, their voices low with complaints that are more routine than sincere. Now and then, they smile. Now and then, they sleep. Around midday, the clouds part for just a breath. The sunlight is weak, more suggestion than substance, but it filters through the branches and lands on the snow in pale golden patches. The group pauses. Some look up. Some close their eyes. One of the elders mutters that it is a blessing. Another scoffs and says it means wolves will be prowling soon. No one laughs, but no one denies it. Historians will someday debate how far tribes like yours traveled in search of new shelter. Some will say only a short distance, a handful of miles each season. Others will claim that entire lifetimes were spent walking, following the same animals across mountains and rivers, driven by ice, hunger, and something deeper that cannot be measured. You pass through a narrow ravine marked with strange signs. They are carved or painted or perhaps both. Circles nested within circles. Spirals that twist like smoke. One image looks like a hand, its fingers long and warped. You stop for a moment. The cold presses in. Something about this place feels older than the trees. She joins you, walking beside you with steady steps. She points at one of the symbols, traces its edge with a gloved hand, and mouths a word you do not recognize. You nod, though you do not understand. Understanding isn't required. Later, the path widens into a clearing ringed by low trees. The snow here is soft, untrodden. The sun has disappeared again, but the space feels safe enough. You stop. Just for one night. A pause. A breath. A moment to remember that you are human and not simply part of the wind's burden. You help build the shelter, curved ribs of bone bound together with strips of hide, stretched and anchored against the wind. It is not elegant, but it will keep out the cold. Someone starts a fire. The scent of smoke rises. Someone else begins to sing. It is not a song of joy. It is a song of journey. A rhythm. A heartbeat for travelers who no longer see where they began. You hum along. You do not know the words. But the tune holds you like a hand. The children play in the snow, chasing one another in circles. Their laughter is sharp and bright, like icicles falling and shattering. One bold child throws a snowball that strikes an elder square in the back. The elder turns slowly, eyes narrowing, then bends down to scoop a pine cone, now capped with snow, and tosses it in retaliation. It strikes a cousin, who shrieks dramatically. The game grows quickly. You let it. After the meal, smoked meat, pine broth, bitter roots boiled until soft, you sit by the fire and take a piece of bark from your pouch. With a sharpened bit of bone, you begin scratching shapes into its surface. They are not elegant. Not really art. But they are yours. You draw the curve of the cave's mouth. The flicker of a fire. The bead she once tied to her belt. Her eyes, the braid that draped over her shoulder. It is memory made visible. She sits beside you without speaking. Watches. Then leans a little closer. Quirky fact, archaeologists have discovered bits of bark and bone carved with symbols and figures. Not all of them are clearly understood. But they speak of something ancient. A need to remember. To carry story when the walls are too far behind to hold it. Someone asks if the next valley will have a cave. A proper one. A place with echoes and stone that holds warmth. Someone else jokes that if there is, they will carve a new mammoth, larger than the old one, with tusks that curve twice and maybe a feathered cap. Everyone laughs. Even the elders. Then the wind rises again, the sound hushes the camp, you draw your cloak tighter, the hide rough beneath your fingers. You lie down near the fire, body curled, eyes open to the sky. The stars above are dim, distant behind thin clouds, but they are there. Scattered and watchful. And as you let sleep find you, you do not think of the cave you left behind. You think of the walls not yet found. Of the lines you will carve. Of the stories you will tell when the fire burns in a new place. You smile, because in a world where ice shapes the land and time forgets names, you still leave something behind. Something made with your hands. Something that matters, even if it is gone by morning. You wake up to the sound of coughing. Not the kind of polite, morning throat clear you can pretend not to hear. This is deeper. Rougher. A sound torn from the chest like something trying to escape. It echoes in the cold air like warning bells you didn't know you had been listening for. You sit up instantly, the sleep still clinging to your limbs, but your heart already racing. Your body knows before your mind catches up. Something is wrong. You crawl across the packed furs and reach the source. It's one of the elders. The thin one with a crooked spine, knotted fingers, and a laugh that once rattled like loose stones. His breath comes in shallow bursts. Each exhale forms a fragile cloud that dissipates before it can rise. He's bundled in every spare hide anyone could find. Layers and layers wrapped tight, but none of it seems to reach him. He shivers violently. His eyes flicker. His lips are pale and cracked. You kneel beside him. Offer a pouch of water, hands trembling slightly. He tries to drink. Tries to lift his head. But most of it dribbles down his chin and soaks into his collar. You gently wipe it away with a corner of your sleeve. Others gather around, quiet as ghosts. Their breath fogs the air. A few children pause in their morning games, drawn by the stillness. They don't speak. They don't need to. You all know this story. You've seen it before. Illness never announces itself with kindness. It arrives without asking, without explanation. One person coughs. Then two more. Then half the group is lying down, eyes glassy, bodies limp. The rest scramble to boil moss and whisper to spirits and chew on roots that smell worse than they taste, as if rituals can outrun decay. Sometimes, someone recovers. Sometimes, not. You tell yourself this time will be different, but the elders' eyes are already beginning to lose their focus. A few people break away to set up a new shelter. Just far enough to keep the group safe, but close enough so he won't feel abandoned. A cousin offers to stay with him. She's quiet, gentle. She hums as she works. Not a song for the sick, but one about warmth, about the sun, about long grass waving in summer wind. You almost don't recognize it. It's been that long since you heard the words. You go out and gather herbs. Not because you believe they will heal him, but because it feels better to do something. Action, even futile, feels like defiance. You claw at the hard earth and find a bulb of wild garlic, its skin thin and its smell sharp enough to sting. It reeks of firewood and rain and something ancient. You mash it into a paste with the end of a bone, smear it on a cloth, and gently wrap it around the elder's throat. He makes no sound. His eyes flutter. But he lets it happen. She joins you soon after. Her brow is creased. Her lips are tight. She brings a pouch of dried moss and a pot of broth. You build a fire and heat the liquid slowly, stirring it with a stick etched with spiral carvings that catch the light. You do not know what the spirals mean. She does. You do not ask. You let her do what she needs to do. The day moves like frozen sap, thick, reluctant, slow. No one goes hunting. No one carves. No one sharpens tools or teaches the children a new knot. Every task is replaced by waiting. By tending. By glancing over shoulders and holding your breath every time the elder stirs. By sunset, he has not worsened. But he has not improved. You eat quietly. The meal is sparse. Dried fish, brittle and salty, eaten slowly. Frozen berries that split like glass in your mouth. Each bite is a test. No one speaks more than necessary. Even the children, usually restless and chattering, eat in silence tonight. You sit close to the fire. Not for warmth, though there is some. But for stillness. For something to stare at that is not a person fading. The flames twist and flicker, dancing against the cave walls in shapes that make you think of birds or antlers or storms you barely survived. You chew slowly. Swallow hard. Think about how fragile everything is. How the simplest life out here requires strength most people will never understand. Historians debate the average lifespan of your kind. Some say 30 years. Some say longer, if you manage to grow past childhood without infection or accident. But those numbers miss the truth. Out here, life is not measured in years. It is measured in meals. In migrations. In the people who are still beside you when the fire goes out. You've lost others before. There were 3 taken by falling rocks last spring. One wandered off into the snow during a storm and was never seen again. Another choked on a fishbone no one noticed until it was too late. There are no guarantees. There is no justice. But still, you carry on. Quirky fact: archaeologists have found burial sites where the dead were laid to rest with wildflowers, with red pigment smeared across their cheeks, with tools nestled beside their ribs. Even when life left no time, people found ways to make room for mourning. For ceremony. For memory. Near midnight, the elder begins to murmur. The sounds are soft, slurred. They do not form words you recognize. They drift up like steam, trailing off before they land. The cousin hums again, a low, gentle sound. She pats his chest, not to wake him, but to remind him he is not alone. You lie on your side, wrapped in layers of fur, eyes half open. The fire casts long, slow shadows. You watch them crawl along the wall. Your thoughts wander. You remember when the elder first showed you how to cut a mammoth hide without wasting a single scrap. You remember his hands guiding yours. The pressure. The pace. You remember his voice, rough, steady, teaching you where to press and when to pause. You remember the way he laughed when your spear slipped from your fingers and landed tip down in the mud, right in front of everyone. He laughed until he coughed. You laughed too, even though your face was red. That was how you learned. You smile now, just a little. Then you close your eyes. By dawn, he is gone. He passed quietly. No gasping. No clutching. He simply exhaled, and that was the end. The cousin beside him is already moving, already slicing strips of hide for wrapping. There is no ceremony. There is no time. You help carry the body. Others fall in beside you. Together, you climb the ridge until you find a leaning tree where the ground is soft enough to dig. There, you build a cairn. Stones, one after another, stacked carefully. Deliberately. She steps forward and places a carved bead on his chest. You recognize it. The one you gave her. You do not ask. You do not need to. The wind is gentle. The sky is pale and open. There are no words spoken. But your silence feels full. Later, someone breaks the tension with a joke. They say the elder will haunt your dreams now, poking you every time you forget to sharpen your blade. Someone else adds that his ghost will walk ahead on the trail, scaring off predators and complaining about your pace. The children laugh. The adults smile. The mood lifts, just enough. By midday, you are moving again. The trail slopes upward. The air shifts. The snow grows thinner beneath your boots, and the trees stretch taller, as if making space for something new. The cold is still present, but it bites less deeply now, and within your chest, nestled beneath the weariness and the ache, something small begins to glow. It is not joy. It is not peace. But it is presence, because those who go do not truly vanish. They remain in the way you grip your spear. In the rhythm of your steps. In the stories that find their way back to firelight, you carry them, and so, you keep walking, heavier than before, but never alone. Your boots squelch through slush that wasn't there a week ago. The noise surprises you every time. Wet, sticky, unfamiliar. Not the dry crunch of snow. Not the icy silence you've grown used to. This is something new. The ground gives beneath your weight, not in surrender, but in change. It feels like walking on a memory that refuses to stay frozen. The snow is melting. Quietly. Slowly. Without announcement or drama. No great flood or thunderous crack. Just a steady release, a long exhale from the lungs of winter. Each drop that falls from a branch or drips off a boulder is a quiet punctuation, a reminder that seasons shift even when you aren't ready. Every few steps, you hear it. The dripping. Branches shedding their icy coats. Stones weeping frost that has clung to them like a second skin. The wind is not gone, but it carries something different now. It does not bite. It brushes. It does not howl. It murmurs. You stop at the edge of a ridge. Water trickles down the slope in thin, delicate rivulets, weaving among rocks and roots like threads in a loom. They gather briefly in hollows, pooling in silence, then disappear again into the dark, rich soil beneath. The ground is darker now, damp with promise. Where once there was only white, there is now color. Brown. Gray. Even hints of green. The air smells different. Less of ash and pine smoke. Less of sweat and survival. Now, it smells of moss. Of thawed bark. Of earth reawakening. You inhale deeply and let the scent settle somewhere behind your ribs, and that's when you feel it, not just notice it. The ice is pulling back. You always knew it would. You'd been told, or guessed, or sensed it in the bones of the land. But knowing something and witnessing it are different. The glacier had been your shadow on the horizon, the silent beast that never slept. You lived in relation to it. You moved because of it. You feared it. And now, as it shrinks, you feel not relief, but something stranger. Disbelief. Disorientation. As if the sky had changed color and no one had mentioned it, the world is changing. Not in a brutal way. Not with teeth and claw. But in a quiet, deliberate unfolding. And for the first time in seasons, it does not feel like the world is trying to kill you. At least not today. Back at camp, your new camp, tucked between two weathered stone outcrops and a stand of young, uncertain trees, everyone is learning to adjust. The snow has become mud. The food storage pits carved into frozen ground have turned slushy and unreliable. The cave you've settled into carries a thick scent of wet fur and moldy lichen. The air inside clings to you like damp fabric. But still, it is home. Not forever. Maybe not even for long. But for now, it holds. You sit outside, away from the dripping roofline, sharpening a spear that does not need sharpening. The sun rests on your face. Real sun. Not the pale imitation that barely warmed your eyelids before. This is light with heat behind it. You squint into the brightness, unused to the way it paints the world in shadow and shine. There is warmth curling beneath your collar, and you let it in without question. Nearby, she kneels in the mud with one of the children, teaching them to twist strips of bark into cord. The child fumbles. The fibers slip apart. They giggle. Then frown, then try again. Her voice is patient. Her hands are gentle. You watch from a distance. You do not speak. You just keep shaving the spear point, letting curls of wood fall into the soil like shavings of an old fear. The future, which once felt like a story for other people, now feels possible. Not certain. Not easy. But possible. Later, someone shouts. You look up to see a cousin holding something aloft, fingers stained red and face triumphant. Berries. Real ones. Fresh and fat and imperfect. Not dried. Not buried under ice. You gather around like starving creatures, but not out of desperation. This is celebration. The taste is wild, sharp, almost too sweet. It stains your lips. It runs down your chin. No one cares. Another finds a tree bud, barely open, and declares it sacred. It's not. But no one challenges them. The moment is too tender for argument. You let meaning bloom wherever it wants to. That evening, the group circles the fire again. Not because the air is freezing. Not because of need. But because fire is still your anchor. Your symbol. The center of every story you've ever told. The flames are not as high as before. The fuel is damp. But the light is golden and good. Stories rise. One cousin claims he saw a sprout wave in the breeze like it was dancing. Another insists the river whispered his name in a voice he almost understood. Someone jokes about the elder who tried to dry socks by setting them directly on the fire. The socks burned. He did not notice for half a day. You all laugh. The kind of laughter that comes from below the ribs. The kind that doesn't need to be earned. Historians will later debate whether this moment, this slow thaw, this softness in the wind, sparked the first thoughts of staying. Of settling. Of calling one place home long enough to remember its shape. Some say it was about the land. Others say it was about the food. Or the animals. Or the need to raise children without walking them across mountains, but for you, it is something simpler. You have stopped walking. You are not starving. You are not dying. You are sitting around a fire, telling bad jokes, without needing to look over your shoulder every 5 minutes. Quirky fact, archaeologists have discovered clay vessels with sticky traces of fermented honey and fruit. Early mead. Which means, at some point, someone figured out that berries and thyme could become joy. It also means your ancestors may have stumbled into the world's first celebration, complete with laughter, smoke, and the clumsy dance of hope. You look down at your hands. They are rough, scarred, nicked from knives and firewood and teeth. But they are not shaking. They are not curled into fists. They are resting. That alone feels like a miracle. She sits beside you now. No announcement. No words. Just presence. You offer her a squashed handful of berries in your palm. She takes one. Eats it, grimaces like it bit back. Then takes another. This time, she smiles, you both laugh. Not loud. But true, the children are nearby, drawing in the mud with sticks. Spirals. Faces. Fingers. Shapes that could be animals or clouds or dreams. No one corrects them. No one cares what the shapes mean. It is enough that they are making them. It is enough that they are creating something simply because they can, and in that moment, as the sky deepens and the fire hums and your hands are no longer tools but instruments, you feel something form. A pause. A breath. A beginning, not a weapon. Not a trap, but a moment, a memory that will last longer than the cold. You hum, low and steady, just to feel your voice in your chest. Others join you. Not in harmony, but in rhythm. A song without lyrics. A feeling wrapped in sound. You think of the stories carved into old stone, the whispers passed from fire to fire, the painted hands layered on cave walls now buried beneath melting time, and you realize something, quiet and certain. You are not only surviving, you are remembering, you are shaping, you are beginning to become something larger than frost, than fear, than hunger. The ice is fading. And what rises in its place may not be the end of anything, it may be the very first echo of what it means to belong. The last of the snow disappears in thin, reluctant ribbons. It clings where it can, on the shaded sides of trunks, in the hidden creases of stone, in the hollows beneath fallen logs that have not seen sun in weeks. These are the places snow goes to linger, to resist, to hold on for just a little longer. But it loses. Slowly, silently, it yields. Water forms. Then trickles. Then seeps into the dark earth below. You wake in the morning and find that your soles no longer crunch against a crust of ice. Now, the ground gives a little. It sighs beneath your step. You feel damp moss press against your heels, cool and soft like the first breath after a long silence. There is no brittle snap. No sharp reminder of cold's grip. The frost that used to line the edges of your shelter has vanished, replaced by droplets of water that slide down with lazy ease. The wind still passes through the trees. It still touches your skin. But it no longer gnaws. It no longer carries knives in its hands. Now, it brushes. Now, it speaks in whispers. You pull your cloak tighter out of habit, not out of need. The sun stretches its stay. Each day it lingers just a little longer in the sky, refusing to set quickly. Light spills through the canopy in soft golden shafts, catching on new leaves, bouncing gently off the stones. You move through it as if rediscovering color, relearning how brightness feels when it lands on your face. And your breath? It only fogs the air when you forget to move. The world, impossibly, is warming. You crouch beside the riverbank, elbows resting on your knees, and watch the water. It runs faster than it did just days ago. The ice that once choked it has broken apart and vanished. The current is eager now, filled with the energy of meltwater and the hunger of movement. It's muddy, brown with silt, but alive. Truly alive. Fish dart in the shallows. Tiny ones. Silver flashes that you had forgotten even existed. Their motion is quick, erratic, beautiful. You blink slowly, then smile. You glance up. The hill behind you is dotted with lean-tos and fur-framed shelters, scattered among the trees like cautious thoughts. Smoke curls from a small fire pit. Bark has been stripped from trees in neat, deliberate patches. The earth around the camp is disturbed not by panic, but by purpose. It is not a village. Not quite. Not yet, but it feels like the idea of one. It feels like something that could last. You walk through the camp. The others are not scrambling. They are not sharpening weapons. They are not foraging with the urgency of hunger. Instead, one person peels bark in clean strips, shaping them into containers for carrying things. Another threads beads, actual beads, into a necklace, her fingers moving slowly, almost playfully. A child crouches in the dirt, digging with both hands, not because of hunger, not because of need, but because she is curious. She wants to know what's below the surface. Even your spear lies against a rock, no longer gripped tightly. It has become a walking stick, a habit more than a weapon. She sits at the edge of the clearing. You see her before you reach her, hunched slightly over a flat piece of bone, her knife working slowly, methodically. You approach without speaking. You lean in and peer over her shoulder. On the bone is a figure, simple, but unmistakable. Broad-shouldered. Upright. Holding something. A spear, perhaps. Or a story. You don't ask. You just sit beside her and watch her carve. Evenings come more gently now. People gather around the fire not because they must, but because they want to. The cold no longer demands it. But the fire still gives something no sun can. Familiarity. Memory. The comfort of flames and faces, of voices mingling over heat. A cousin tells a tale about a lion. A huge one, golden and fierce, who roared so loudly at the mountain that the glacier turned back. Everyone laughs. Someone else declares the tale true. You nod, deadpan, and say you once shared a meal with that lion, and that he still owes you meat. Laughter breaks like dawn. The sound rolls through camp, warming more than the fire can. Historians will later argue about the origins of culture. They will ask when survival became storytelling, when instinct became memory, when humans began looking backward in order to look forward. But for you, it is not a theory. It is not a mystery. It is here, in the way people linger after the story ends. In the way they add their own lines, inventing myths just for the joy of invention, in the way the children copy the tale into the dirt with sticks, drawing lions with manes like suns. Someone paints now. Not on a cave wall this time. On bark. The pigments come from crushed flowers, from berries, from soft minerals ground between stones. The colors are not just red and black anymore. There is blue. There is yellow. Someone paints a circle and fills it with light. You stare too long at the yellow. It feels like something sacred. Quirky fact: archaeologists will one day find early depictions of stars, etched and painted into stone and bark. They will match these marks to real constellations and wonder how early people understood the sky. Perhaps it was not knowledge. Perhaps it was simply wonder. The glacier is still there. You know that. You can still see its edge in the far distance. Still cold. Still massive. But it is not a wall anymore. It is not something you press against. It is a backdrop. A horizon. A thing fading slowly into memory. You wake now to the sound of birds. You sleep more deeply, without keeping a hand on your spear. You dream, and your dreams are not warnings. They are not maps of danger. They are gentle. The children run through the trees. They invent games you do not understand. One involves throwing pine cones into a circle drawn in mud. Another seems to be about pretending to be clouds. It makes no sense. You love it. The elders begin to forget how cold it used to be. They still tell the stories. But the details blur. No one minds. The forgetting is a sign of change. You sit beside her one evening. The fire crackles. She reaches for your hand. She does not ask. You do not speak. You just sit, fingers touching, listening to the quiet conversation of the world around you. The river murmurs. The leaves tremble in a soft breeze. Somewhere, a bird calls and then goes quiet again. You lie down on your side. Your head cushioned by a bundle of furs that still hold the warmth of the day. Your eyes flutter. You hear laughter. You hear the slow, steady breathing of people who are no longer afraid of the dark. The sky shifts to indigo. Stars prick through the dusk like distant fires. Someone hums a song. Someone else joins in, off-key but earnest. You smile, and you realize something that makes your heart still. You made it, not because you were stronger than the cold, not because you were smarter than the ice, but because you stayed. Because you shared. Because you told stories. Because you kept going, not alone, together. The ice has pulled back, and in its place, something fragile and luminous has begun to rise. A breath, a story, a beginning. The fire is low now. It no longer reaches high. It just glows, a soft pulse of orange and ember flickering against the soft walls of your shelter. Around you, the sounds have softened. Breathing has slowed. Someone turns in their sleep. Someone else whispers something unintelligible and then is still. Outside, the breeze moves between the trees, light and easy. It no longer growls. It no longer carries the weight of winter. It is a song now, hummed by the leaves, gentle and slow. You shift beneath your hide blanket. It still holds the day's heat. Your muscles ache, but only in the way that says you lived well. Your stomach is full. Your heart is quiet. The river hums, steady and distant. A single bird chirps, then falls silent. Above you, the stars blink through a sky that is finally clear. No smoke. No snow. No storm. You do not have to run tonight. You do not have to guard the fire like a secret. You can let yourself go still. The fire crackles, faint and steady. Your thoughts begin to float. Not in words. In sensations. The feel of her fingers. The taste of the berry. The sound of laughter. The glint of yellow on bark. It settles over you slowly. The weight of every moment that led to this one. The warmth passed from hand to hand. The memory carried in beads and bone and bark. It has always been like this. Nights wrapped in silence. Mornings wrapped in promise. You made it through the ice, and now, with the cold behind you and the stars above you, you can rest. Let your chest rise. Let your breath fall. Let the fire dim. Good night.